Hey you guys, today's video kicks off the Keyblade graveyard breakdowns. I plan to do each whole fight as a single video. For example, with Dark Riku and Xigbar, I plan to break down the cutscenes before and after, as well as the combat of the enemies and allies throughout the battle. This is probably going to be a pretty long video, so grab some popcorn and get comfy. Before the battle, there's a short kind of mini game you have to get through. 3 sets of pillars will appear and push you backwards unless you dodge them. You can either get into a lane where the pillars are not at, use the cover side reaction command to slide under a small opening at the bottom of the pillars, or dodge through the pillars with the right timing. Blocking is not effective against the pillars. It will just go through your guard and push you back. There are 5 waves that you have to dodge. This is the same pattern every time. The first wave has no openings, so you have to dodge through it or use cover slide. The rest of the waves have openings. The second wave has an opening on the right, the third has one on both the left and right, the fourth wave has an opening in the middle, and the last wave has an opening on the right. You have glide at this point, so the easiest thing to do is just look for the openings and move out of the way of the coming pillars. Each lane of pillars has a different design on them. The pillars in the left lane have what look to be Luxord's cards on them. The middle pillar actually has Demyx's Sitar and Marluxia's Scythe. And the pillars on the right seem to have Larxene's daggers on them. All these organization members have the Keyblade legacy sleeping within them, which means they were there in the Age of Fairy Tales during the first Keyblade War. A huge thank you to 13th Vessel for letting me use this render of the pillars. It made it so much easier to see what was there. He did some fantastic work finding ways to get out of bounds in Kingdom Hearts 3, as well as finding some unused places and recreating them to see what it would look like. So be sure to give him a follow. I'll leave a link down in the description below to his Twitter and YouTube channel. The doors also have some symbols on them. One shows what looks to be a coffin with 8 points coming out of it. In the middle of this symbol are 3 more. The top one may be a heart, or even the symbol worn by Ericus and his students. The middle symbol has 2 arrows pointing away from each other, and I have no idea what this third symbol could be. You can see this in the middle of the door as well. The other symbol on the top of the door has what seems to be an eye here and here with wings on the outside. The bottom symbol looks to be an arrow or a sword. It's stabbing into what could be seen as a heart. It always seemed a little odd to me that the door closed so quickly at the end. It almost seemed like this was supposed to be either a longer corridor or a more complex puzzle. If you reach the end of the puzzle before all the waves have gone, the pillars will stop spawning. There's a repeated fight that happens before you actually get into the battle. This shows Riku fighting against the enemies by himself. He does a thrusting attack against Ansem before going after Dark Riku and Xigbar. Dark Riku gets a couple of hits on him while Xigbar reloads before Riku gets a combo finisher off on Dark Riku. Riku dodges some shots from Xigbar before he tries to hit him. Riku chases Ansem off screen before it loops again. It's interesting to see Riku's combo without all the effects that are usually there. While getting this footage, I actually learned that if you're low on HP, your camera blinks like your HP gauge. Anyways, the opening cutscene to this fight shows Ansem looking at a fight between Riku and Dark Riku. During the struggle, we see this odd spark appear twice. Personally, I believe this is showing the clash between light and darkness. After Riku pushes back Dark Riku, Xigbar jumps up to shoot a barrage of shots. Riku dodges out of the way, and as he gets up, we see he is already growing tired. Sora runs up to join him, and the battle begins. At the start of the battle, Ansem fights alongside Xigbar and Dark Riku. He will always appear in the middle and attack with this shield rush attack. You can just guard once and it will protect you throughout the whole attack. After this, Ansem will spawn orbs around Sora that shoot at him 2 at a time. With there being 6 orbs, this means it'll happen 3 times. After this, Ansem will do a shield attack and then summon another couple orbs to attack again. Before the orbs can shoot at you though, Ansem will leave, covering the area in darkness. You can damage him here, but it doesn't really matter. During the cutscene, Riku jumps after him, but Dark Riku kicks him back to the ground. Xigbar takes aim at Riku, but Sora gets there just in time to deflect the attacks. It's interesting that all the attacks here have this same spark effect. We see this with Riku and Dark Riku, and now with Sora and Xigbar. Anyways, Xigbar tells them to speed it up so they can keep the line moving. Now on to the actual battle between these two. I'm going to split them up and talk about each individually. First up is Dark Riku, the replica from Chain of Memories. His first attack is a 3-hit combo starting with a thrust forward followed by a horizontal slash and ending with a flipping slash downwards. Dark Riku then uses his free hand to strike the ground, pushing out 2 shockwaves. For some reason, he will switch between the first 2 attacks, sometimes using the thrusting attack first and sometimes using the horizontal slash first. All of this can be easily guarded and none of this will break your guard. You can even guard the shockwaves spawned. If you are caught in this attack, you will have just enough time between his second and third attack to guard or dodge out of the way. The next attack Riku does is a slice that sends out a disc, followed up by a dash attack. The dash attack shows Riku holding his blade out in front of himself and slicing out when he is close to Sora. While you can block the initial attack and the disc shot out, the dash attack will break through your guard unless you have a form change with the barrier ability. Be sure to have the wrist guard ability equipped so you can counterattack the guard break. Riku can also spawn mines in front of himself during his fight. Riku raises his hand in the air as 2 small orbs of darkness spiral in towards it. He jumps back as darkness pushes out and 5 mines appear. These have flames circling around them, and when you are close enough, they will start glowing and sparking more before exploding. These can be blocked with a simple guard. These are also used by Ansem Seeker of Darkness, as is the next attack. The last attack Riku can use besides his desperation move is an underground kind of attack. Riku touches the ground, which sends a small pool of darkness shooting out that stays beneath Sora. After a period of time, the pool will grow larger and 6 claws will shoot out and stab in the middle. The red tips glow more as they meet in the middle, signifying that this attack is not guardable. The best thing to do is keep moving or dodging to stay safe. The Black Coat Nightmare also has a similar attack. Usually, Riku will set a group of mines, send the pool of darkness, and then do his dash attack in quick succession in hopes of breaking your guard right when the claws come out to attack. Riku's desperation move shows him jumping into the air before disappearing. While he is rising into the air, the Soul Eater spins in the air beside him. Light appears on the ground, showing where the attacks are coming from. Riku slams his blade down, calling down a bolt of lightning as a shockwave is pushed out. He will do this 5 times before he raises his hand, raining down thunder all around Sora. Keep an eye on the pools of light on the ground, and you should be able to dodge this pretty easily, since any form of blocking does not work here. Most of these attacks are based off of attacks from Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories. They even copy the hit effect, which is a purple X. The 3-hit combo is kind of a mix between Riku's combat from Chain of Memories and one of his attacks when you fight him in both Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories. The last hit of the combo looks more like the Chain of Memories version used by the Riku replica. The dash attack is also seen in both games, though in Kingdom Hearts 3, Dark Riku could shoot at a disc even before powering up, which is not the case in the other 2 games. Riku would just do a slash with no disc before he was powered up. In Chain of Memories, this dash would stun Sora, which is kind of similar to how he can break his guard in Kingdom Hearts 3. In Kingdom Hearts 1, this actually breaks you out of your guard in a way, since you can't follow up with a counterattack. Dark Riku's desperation move seems to be a kind of variation of Dark Aura and Dark Break combined, since he does the same animation while powering up as Dark Aura, but dives down at Sora from above like Dark Break. At the end, the attack mirrors the ending of Dark Aura, where multiple bolts of lightning spread out to damage enemies. In Kingdom Hearts 1, Dark Break also shows this lightning type of attack. And that is it for the combat. Let's look at some smaller things with Dark Riku's fight. First of all, when Riku has taken enough damage, he will power up and start using his desperation move. He rises into the air as darkness spreads around him. Like I said before, it looks very similar to the charge up before Dark Aura. A concentrated beam of darkness shoots upward as Riku drops back down to the ground. A Dark Aura can be seen around him after this. When Riku is fighting alone, he will automatically move to his second phase at the start of the battle. I haven't been able to find any differences with damage output or speed of attacks. When Riku is thrown into the air from an attack, he will flip backwards before landing in a crouch position. During battle, Riku will keep a certain distance away from Sora and will jump backwards to keep that space. The last thing I want to point out is Dark Riku's battle quotes. He has a unique one for going into his second phase, killing Sora in battle, restarting the battle, and when he is defeated.
I'm unstoppable! Come on, Sora. I thought you were stronger than that. You didn't get enough last time? But why?
Upon defeat, a pillar of darkness shoots into the sky. Dark Riku calls Riku the fake, revealing that this is actually the Riku replica and not a past version of Riku being overcome by darkness. The Riku replica inside Riku's heart appears and pulls him out of the replica body, leaving it for Naminé. As the replicas disappear, we see a pillar of both light and darkness. And that is it for Dark Riku. Let's look at Xigbar's fight. Xigbar's first attack is a simple 4-shot combo. He can shoot at you from a number of different locations. He can teleport above you, shoot straight at you, shoot out curve shots, or create portals in which to shoot you. These are all based on different attacks he used in Kingdom Hearts 2. Guarding these during his first phase will stun him just like you could in Kingdom Hearts 2. His guns will spin behind him for a second before Xigbar flips back and grabs them to shoot out 4 more shots. You can actually guard the counterattack and stun him again. You can loop this until Xigbar goes into his second phase. During the second phase, he will not stagger from blocked shots. After you defeat Dark Riku, Xigbar will go straight into this phase at the beginning of the battle. After his 4-shot attack, Xigbar will either start walking around or reload. During both of these actions, Xigbar will be open to attack. While Xigbar is reloading, you can actually see the bullets on his gun charging up, showing you how much time you have left to attack. The only other attack Xigbar has besides his DM is a kind of shotgun attack. This one is an original attack not seen before to my knowledge. While charging with one gun, his other gun acts as a countdown, starting at 6 o'clock and turning to 12. As soon as it turns to 12, Xigbar will shoot. You can actually see the gun spinning in the air during the attack before he grabs it. Xigbar will follow you while you are moving and will shoot in your direction regardless of what height you are at. These do not follow you though like his normal bullets do. If you block or get hit by these, you will cancel some of the bullets out. The rest of the bullets will stick in the ground for a period of time. Getting close to them will cause them to explode. With the right timing, you can actually guard this, but it's pretty tight. The DM is another original attack. Xigbar rises into the air as his blasters spin beside him. He catches them before slamming them together to make a makeshift bow. He pulls back on the bowstring, and you can see the bullets on the guns start to charge up one by one as a giant arrow appears. When all the bullets charge up, the edges of the bow glow before Xigbar shoots the arrow skyward. This shot pushes you out to the edge of the arena. With the right timing though, you can actually dodge this. This shot creates a purple light in the sky, and purple clouds push out around it. Dark arrows start raining down in a circle that spreads out across the entire arena. Surprisingly, you can block this. You can also dodge through it by using air dash, dodge roll, or even air stepping to Xigbar if he is in range. You'll need to watch out for Xigbar during this since he will go back to attacking right after shooting out his arrow. Xigbar has two different animations for when he is staggered from a combo. The first is when he's on the ground. He will flip backwards twice before catching himself and landing upright with a gun behind his head. The other is in the air when he is upside down. Xigbar will just be pushed back before he catches himself. Xigbar has 4 lines, one when he is powering up, another when you die, one when you restart the battle, and one when you defeat him.
Let's make it interesting. This is the end of the road for you. All right, the hero thinks he's ready now. So, this is your power.
As Xigbar falls to the ground, he says that if only he had the Keyblade, it would be different. When Sora tells him that he isn't worthy to bear a Keyblade, he reveals that he is worthy. Now that we know about the epilogue and Xigbar's true identity, this cutscene takes on a whole new meaning. Was this Luxord accidentally letting it slip that he can wield a Keyblade? It almost seems like he backpedals in the next scene, saying that Xehanort promised to bequeath him the no-name Keyblade. When Riku says it would be wasted on him, Xigbar replies with his iconic as if. Xigbar teleports to the top of the ruins where he falls backwards off the roof. His guns disappear, which was meant to make us believe that he had perished. I think this is the moment when Xigbar writes the 13th secret report. He says that the Keyblade War has begun, but Kingdom Hearts hasn't been summoned yet. Your ally in this battle against Dark Riku and Xigbar is Riku. Riku has all of the same moves as his playable sections, except for his barrier and counterattack, though it is possible he can still pull those off. I just personally haven't seen them during my testing. I also haven't seen Riku use magic or items during this battle, except for his Dark Firaga situation command. Anyways, he has his Dark Roll dodge as well as his ground and air combo. Surprisingly, he has access to both his Dark Firaga situation command as well as his double dual attack that he uses with Mickey. Of course though, Mickey isn't present during this attack. It makes me wonder which of these attacks we'll be able to use with the Remind DLC, since we do see him building up a situation command in one of the trailers. I did an entire breakdown on Riku's moveset in Kingdom Hearts 3, so if you want to see that, there should be an iCard in the top corner. After both enemies have been defeated, the darkness keeping them trapped in the area dissipates. Sora and Riku are seen to be looking down at the replica body, and Sora asks if this body is for Naminé. It seems like he wasn't able to see or hear the Riku replica in the previous cutscene. Riku confirms that this is for Naminé, but Sora first has to help the others as Riku goes after Ansem. With Riku running off before the scene ends, I guess the scene we see in Remind happens later. I always assumed that Riku was standing there right after the fight when Demyx came to pick up the body. That can still be the case, or maybe Riku came back after the battle with Xehanort and stumbled onto Demyx, who thought he would be gone by this point. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at the dated Dark Riku fight from Kingdom Hearts 3. I guess technically this would be the dated Dark Riku replica, but for this video I'll just call him Dark Riku. This fight is one of the more insane fights of the data battles, and while I will try my best to show off all of the attacks and animations, I'm sure I will miss something. If I do, let me know down in the comments below. The first attack we will look at has Dark Riku forming a corridor of mines that seek to limit Sora's area of movement. He will always summon these dark mines the same way, with a raised hand that has orbs of darkness circle around it. When the orbs meet his hand, there is a flash of light as Dark Riku jumps backwards. An orb of darkness expands where the cast was at while the mines appear. This actually seems to be a recolored version of the Blizzard effect. The mines created have a dark flame in the middle, as well as a circle of smaller flames around the center. Since Dark Riku does not have a dark fire attack, I wonder if the fire on these mines was a way to subtly nod to it. The last thing I want to note about these mines that I've talked about way too long now is that I think that these are actually a nod to the mind commands from Birth by Sleep. The mines in Birth by Sleep had 3 variations: a line, a circle, and seeking mines. These are actually all present, though the seeking mines are only in the Data Ansem fight. Now, let's actually get back to the attack we were talking about. After summoning these mines, Dark Riku will jump into the air, flipping a Soul Eater beside him as he teleports. When he reappears, he will dive down to the ground and use his free hand to send chakras forward. As you block these, you will see Dark Riku running towards you a bit before teleporting and moving on to the next attack. While he is running towards you, he is open to attack. If you do not trigger the mines, they will glow with a red bubble around the center before exploding. You can actually guard against the mines. Anyways, alongside this corridor of mines, Dark Riku can also spawn this ring of mines around you and this other formation of mines. These are spawned around your position, so it's possible to jump into the air and have the mines spawn up high. With the ring of mines, Dark Riku will do one of two attacks. For one of them, he will teleport close to you and slash at you before casting a barrier, before teleporting and doing a 3-hit combo, ending with 2 shockwave attacks. The second is a downward strike attack. This is actually a nod to his Dark Break attack or the end of his Dark Aura attack. This shoots up lightning as a shockwave pushes out. This strike attack will always spawn red pillars up from the ground. During the combo, Dark Riku will be open after he teleports after his barrier. If you are in the air during parts of his combo, he will cut the combo short and do his downward strike. The other variation of mines has Dark Riku shooting an energy slice at you before spawning a pool of darkness below you and shooting another energy slice. The next attack we'll look at is a combo that has a couple variations to it. The first variation is a strike followed by a barrier guard. If you don't strike the guard, he will follow up with another strike, followed by a strike and a shockwave spawned from his free hand. This is a nod to this attack from Kingdom Hearts 1. The follow-up attack is an unblockable energy slice. This is another attack from Kingdom Hearts 1. Dark Riku then does his slice and shockwave attack twice before jumping back and forming a barrier. He'll slowly strafe for a second before moving on to another attack. The other variations of this attack skip the opening barrier or the ending one. I'll show those on screen right now. He will usually be open at the end of this attack. Another combo attack Dark Riku can do opens with the energy slice followed by a lunge and barrier. He'll teleport before doing a strike and shockwave combo before teleporting and casting a barrier. Dark Riku will do one more strike before teleporting and doing a downward strike attack. Dark Riku is open during the very beginning of this attack. While it is not always the case, it will usually trigger after his shield bait attack. The shield bait attack is a series of barriers as Riku teleports and dashes around you. He'll do one barrier before teleporting and doing another barrier followed up by a slash and another barrier before jumping back and casting one last barrier. If you end up striking his barrier, he will counterattack by pushing the barrier outwards and throwing you into the air. He'll then follow this up with his downward strike attack. Also, there are a number of ways to punish the shield counterattack. You can counter his downward strike attack after triggering the counterattack, or you can dodge the counterattack and hit him when he is open. Another attack Dark Riku can do is a combination between his Dark Pool and his combo. He'll start by sending a pool of darkness to home in on you. The same orbs of darkness will circle around Dark Riku's hand just like when he summons the mines. A set of unblockable claws will shoot up out of the pool after a bit and launch you into the air. This can be dispelled by a cast of water actually. Dark Riku will follow up with a shockwave before teleporting closer to do a single strike. He'll then do a strike and shockwave combo before doing a lunge and ending the attack with his downward strike attack. This last attack will spawn the red pillars of energy that shoot up from the ground. If you counterattack during his lunge, which is right before the downward strike, you will have an opening. This is usually when the dark claws from the pool come out to strike you though, so dispel those if you are going for the counterattack. Dark Riku also has a kind of air combo attack. A pool of darkness is spawned beneath you before Dark Riku jumps into the air and does his multi-shockwave attack. As this gets closer, Dark Riku will teleport and fly towards you with a quick 3-hit combo, with the last having a dark effect on the slash. He'll then teleport and do a 5-hit combo, ending with the last hit being an unblockable one. This is actually similar to Riku's normal air combo finisher in Kingdom Hearts 3. Dodging this last strike will create an opening. Dark Riku's ultimate attack is pretty much a combination of dark auras and dive attacks. Darkness covers the ground below him as he rises into the air. A pillar of darkness shoots upwards as Dark Riku teleports to the center. He'll do his downward strike attack in the center, but this time shockwaves will shoot out in all directions. Throughout the whole attack, Dark Riku will glow with an aura. After this shockwave, Dark Riku will teleport and dash towards you 3 times before doing a downward strike that spawns the red pillars in the corridor of mines. He'll do this 3 times in a row before spawning a circle of mines around you and doing a diving strike. He'll then teleport back to the center, spawning another ring of mines before doing a shockwave attack again. He'll then do another diving strike after this, followed up by his Dark Aura attack. This time though, he dashes at you 5 times before doing another diving strike. This one spawns a ton of the red pillars all over the arena. There are actually 2 openings during this attack. The first is after his second shockwave attack in the center of the arena. The other is after the end of the attack when he is slowly strafing. After this ultimate attack, Dark Riku will add on a couple of new attacks to his already insane list of moves. The first is this mine variation we talked about earlier. It's actually interesting how this attack forces you to move to the left or right, limiting your movement forward and in the air with the placement of the mines. The second attack is a dash attack. Riku will jump backwards with a barrier before shooting an energy slice at you. As you are dodging this, he will dash at you multiple times. Guarding any of these dashes will break your guard, and Dark Riku will bounce backwards and spin. Wrist dodging will create an opening. The last attack is another air combo attack. Dark Riku will spawn a pool of darkness below you before summoning a ring of mines. He will then do a strong 2-hit combo before landing back on the ground. As he drops, he will be open. Finally, Dark Riku has a line for when you win and when you lose. I'll play them right here.
What? Come on, Sora. I thought you were stronger than that.
Hey you guys, today we're going to be talking about probably one of the worst characters ever created in any game ever, and who should have perished in KH2 never to rear his dumb face ever again. Xigbar. The best strategy is to equip the Deathly Blow easy code and put him in his fucking place. Thank you guys so much for watching, I'll see you in the next video. Okay, I won't end the series like that. I've been putting this fight off for a while and wish this day would never come, but welcome to my Xigbar breakdown. Okay. I can do this. You can do this. This fight is broken up into 2 phases in a way. From what I've seen, only 1 attack is added in the second phase, with the rest of the attacks staying the same. Let's look at Xigbar's opening attack. I hate you. Xigbar opens by changing the area into a donut with another donut inside of that donut, but the middle donut is a donut of darkness. What the f am I saying? I can't take this seriously just because I can't. This character just sucks. I hate it. I'm sorry. Anyways, during this area change, which is a nod to his KH2 fight, where he would also change the arena during the fight, Xigbar kind of orients you to the different kinds of attacks he will use. He has normal bullets that you can block back at him, a kind of mine attack where Xigbar lays down bullets around you that move in your direction after a couple seconds, a supercharged bullet that bounces off the air a couple times before it homes in on you, and powerful shots that cannot be blocked back at Xigbar. Honestly, it is kind of a smart way of starting the fight since the arena forces you to take some of these attacks instead of immediately going in for an attack. It slows you down and makes you actually look at what you're fighting. These all have openings, though I'll cover these attacks later since they are all just as basic attacks you see in the fight. Xigbar ends the sequence with his ultimate attack from the Keyblade graveyard. During the second phase, Xigbar would continue to do a number of attacks afterwards before changing the arena back to normal. During this fight, you will sometimes get a showdown reaction command. This has Sora and Xigbar approaching each other for a standoff. Wait for your time to strike to do a quick shot and stun Xigbar. This stun animation is the same one he had when you blocked enough shots back at him in KH2. Missing the prompt or hitting it too early will send Sora flying and reduce his health to 1. I love this sequence because it's so cinematic, and we also get to beat Xigbar at his own game, showing that he kinda like sucks at even his own attacks. Hate to see it. Now let's look at Xigbar's individual attacks. The first attack opens with Xigbar flipping into the air while shooting at you. He teleports away and fires straight down, though the bullets veer towards you as Xigbar shoots another set of bullets straight at you. He then shoves his hands into portals to shoot some strong bullets at you. These look pretty cool with twin spiraling tails. Depending on if Xigbar is on the ground or in the air, the attack where he shoots away from you can have him shooting towards the ground or straight up into the air. Xigbar will be open right after his strong bullets. Xigbar's next attack has him spinning his guns in front of himself before linking them together and firing off one of the bouncing blue bullets. These will always bounce 3 times before homing in on Sora. Xigbar will follow this up with a jumping bullet attack and his strong bullets before strafing around you with some shots before standing still for one last barrage. You can attack Xigbar during the wind-up to his bouncing bullet for an opening. Xigbar's next attack has him casually strolling before shooting some strong bullets at you. Look at him, who does he think he is? So smug. After he does this 3 times, he'll teleport and spin his guns in front of himself, shooting off a barrage of bullets. He'll teleport again and shoot behind his head before strafing around you to finish off the attack. He'll be open at the end here. The next attack has Xigbar charging up before laying down a spread of bullets that act like mines. These will fly in whatever direction Sora is in after a while, but can be blocked. Xigbar will be open right after he shoots, but be careful of the bullets flying back towards you. Xigbar's free gun will act as a timer showing when exactly he will shoot. Occasionally Xigbar will use his ultimate attack from the Keyblade graveyard here, and continue to attack you during it. I've pointed out before, but I love how Xigbar changes his guns into a bow and arrow for this attack. I just love that detail. Don't get me wrong, I hate Xigbar, but damn, that is so cool to see this animation. The only change I saw in the second phase was an additional attack where Xigbar shoots out 3 bouncing bullets before running and shooting you with a barrage of unblockable shots. This is actually preceded by his ultimate attack for this data battle, which clues you into these unblockable shots, so it's a nice progression in my opinion, and a good way of teaching you so you aren't completely blindsided. Like with the previous bouncing bullet attack, you can hit Xigbar during the charge up to stop this attack. The transition between phase 1 and 2 of this fight has Xigbar transforming the arena into a very small circle, a donut hole if you will. Xigbar sends a barrage of bullets flying towards you from all directions while spinning in a circle with his own shots. Bullets then rain down in the center with more flying up from the floor and raining down on you, so keep moving in a circle here to stay safe. The next part of this attack has the arena being divided into quarters as Xigbar does another spin attack and another set of bullets rain down on you from above. Xigbar then appears in the middle, and bullets fly up from the ground, only to rain back down on you. Eventually the screen will white out, and you'll be back to the normal arena. If you get hit here in this last part, a barrage of bullets will home in on you. Xigbar has some lines he says here when he defeats you, and when you defeat him. I'll play them for you here.
This is the end of the road for you. This is your power.
And I think that's all I have for you guys today. This marks the end of my data battle breakdowns. I hope you've enjoyed them. I mean, I don't know how anyone could enjoy a video with Xigbar in it, but if you did, I'm happy for you. Seriously though, it feels really nice to be done with these data battles. It's been a long, I had a lot of breaks in between, but it's been a long time. So it's nice to finally put a bow on this and move on to the next series. Hey you guys, today we're going to be breaking down the Vanitas and Terranort fight in the Keyblade graveyard. Like the previous videos on these bosses, I will cover everything from puzzles beforehand to combat as well as the cutscenes for these bosses. I won't waste your time, so let's get right into the breakdown. The puzzle right before the fight is similar to the puzzle before the Dark Riku and Xigbar fight. Pillars fly towards you and you have to dodge them. This time though, you do not have the areas to trigger cover slide. There are 4 waves of pillars, though if you reach the end quickly enough, the pillars will stop spawning. The first opening is in the middle, with the only way to dodge being either well-timed air dodge or dodge roll through the pillars, or gliding through the opening. The second opening has some space between the 3 sets of pillars. The third opening is on the left side of the corridor, and the last opening is a tight opening in the center. Like the previous puzzle, these pillars have symbols on them representing the weapons of the organization members, though in this puzzle, each wave of pillars has different symbols on them rather than the same 4 we saw previously. The first wave has Xigbar's gun on one side and Saix's claymore on the other. The second wave has Vexen's shield, the third wave has Demyx's sitar, and the last wave has Vanitas' gear symbol. Previously, I theorized that the Nobody sigil we saw in the puzzle before Dark Riku and Xigbar was Demyx's sitar, but now that we see them side by side, it confirms that this was, in fact, just the Nobody sigil. It's odd that all of the weapons are here, since I assumed the ruins were hinting at the previous Keyblade War in the Age of Fairy Tales. Were these created by Xehanort, or has all of this been etched here by fate? Before the battle, we can see a short battle loop between the 4 characters. Aqua and Terranort dash towards each other before Aqua hits him into the air. Vanitas evades a couple attacks from Ven as Terranort attacks Aqua. It looks like Aqua uses a combat finisher to get out of the attack as Ven gets hit back by Vanitas' slash. Aqua dashes towards Terranort and Ven tries again to hit Vanitas, who jumps into the air and looks like he's about to cast magic before Ven jumps after him and gets a hit off. During this, Aqua and Terranort exchange blows before Terranort pushes her off screen. She cartwheels back in and does a powerful hit, sending him off flying. Vanitas jumps towards Ven and sends him flying before he chases after him. It then loops after this. The cutscene before the battle shows Aqua and Ventus trading blows with the enemy before being knocked back. Sora joins them and the battle begins. Like the previous videos, I will break both of the characters apart and look at each one individually. Let's look at Vanitas first. Vanitas has 5 attacks. 2 of these will only happen in his second phase. The main attack he will do is this 2-hit attack where he slices downward and then flips backwards in an upper slash. The second attack will shoot out a wave, so be sure to dodge or move out of the way if you are evading the attack. Sometimes Vanitas will dodge before attacking. From what I've seen, it seems like Vanitas will dodge more if you are close to him. If he has to run towards you, he usually will attack as soon as he gets to you instead of dodging. Still, there is a random chance for him to guard or just attack straight off the bat, so be sure to get the correct timing down. If you guard with the right timing, after he dodges, you will get another guard up right before he attacks. The next attack that Vanitas will use is a Rising Spiral attack where he shoots out fire. Vanitas dives into the ground and closes in on you. He then shoots up out of the ground shooting out fireballs. This whole attack can be guarded against. The last attack in Vanitas' first phase arsenal is an ice attack. Vanitas will teleport above you and slam down with his Keyblade. As soon as he hits the ground, ice shoots upwards. This black magic effect surrounds all of the magic cast from Vanitas. The ice attack will break your guard. In his second phase, Vanitas will usually follow this up with another attack, so the best option is to wrist dodge. The actual slam of this attack can be guarded, since you can see Sora had the attack option before his guard breaks. After dealing enough damage, Vanitas will move on to his second phase. He will still use all of these attacks, but will also use 2 more. The first attack is a Firaga attack that bursts into 5 smaller fires. This can be guarded, and you can actually guard the single fire attack to keep it from breaking apart. He will usually go straight into another attack after this. The last attack Vanitas has is his ultimate attack. This shows him jumping into the air to land on a wave of Keyblades. He will fly around a bit before sparks move across the wave of Keyblades. After this, he will have a burst of speed and shoot out 10 casts of Blizzard at you. This is faster than your guard, so either guard or dodge these. If you line it upright, you can guard the blizzards back at Vanitas. Another spark goes across the wave before Vanitas flies at you. The wave now has red currents of electricity flowing through it. You can guard this attack, and as you guard, you can see that the entire wave of Keyblades has a hitbox during this. Vanitas will fly at you 3 times before he moves to the center of the arena. The Keyblades will now circle around him as he sends 10 waves towards you. Vanitas' Keyblade glows red on the end, and the dark magic effect circles the top of his Keyblade. Red and blue orbs can be seen around it as well. The Keyblades circling around Vanitas do have a hitbox, so be careful getting too close. As soon as the attack ends, Vanitas will peer above you and slam down with his ice attack. When Vanitas is hit by a combo finisher, he will flip backwards and land crouched with his free arm outstretched. Vanitas has 3 unique quotes when you die, restart the battle, and defeat him.
Be one with darkness. Well, that's better. I was hoping to have company. I need the rest of me.
All of Vanitas' attacks are based on his attacks from Birth by Sleep. His ultimate attack adds a bit more at the end, but the Blizzard casts and the dash attacks are similar. When Vanitas falls, we see his mask crack and shatter. He still has Sora's Kingdom Hearts 2 hairstyle. It's odd that Sora is surprised by how he looks since he saw him in the chapel in Dream Drop Distance. Anyways, Vanitas explains that of course they look the same since Sora replaced Vanitas with Ventus. I guess what he means by this is that while Vanitas was still forming, Sora filled in that gap in Ven's heart. Think of it as Sora's piece that reconstructed Ven was a mold for Vanitas, giving him the form of Sora. Vanitas refers to them as brothers, all of whom make up a greater whole. Sora asks why he stands with darkness, for which Vanitas responds that he is darkness and is the shadow that they cast. How much closer could he be? Ventus interrupts Sora, saying he never asked for this. He didn't want to be sifted apart, but rather wants to be free to choose whatever he wants. Vanitas responds that he did decide. What he is darkness. Ven accepts it, but Sora doesn't. Vanitas disappears though before the conversation can continue. Now let's move on to Terranort. Terranort has 6 attacks. Just like Vanitas, some of these attacks only trigger during his second phase. Also, some of the attacks in his first phase change slightly as well. The first attack is a dash attack. This is a nod to Terra's dodge from Birth by Sleep. In his first phase, he will usually only dash at you once, occasionally doubling back and dashing at you from behind. During his second phase, his double dash attack triggers more often. You could get a second dodge in Birth by Sleep as well. The next attack is our Caelum, a command Terra could get in Birth by Sleep. This involves a flurry of slashes, ending with a slam downwards that sends out a giant shockwave. The last hit before the shockwave attack will break Sora's guard, leaving him wide open for the last hit. Wrist dodge to get away from it. You can also counterattack to get through the guard break and guard the shockwave attack. If you evade the attack, Terranort will stop halfway through. The last attack he will use in his first phase is his Dark Volley Shotlock from Birth by Sleep. In his first phase, he will only shoot out 6 shots that home in on you. All of this can be blocked. In the second phase, he will follow this up with the higher level version of Dark Volley, spinning around as he shoots out a barrage of shots. In his second phase, Terranort will call forth his shadow to attack you. Terranort will rise into the air and cross his arms while the shadow attacks. The first attack is a 3-hit combo with the shadow punching downwards before the shadow does a double uppercut. A pool of darkness appears on the ground before the shadow shoots upwards to end the attack. This last hit is reminiscent of this attack from Kingdom Hearts 1 and Birth by Sleep. You can block all of these attacks. If the shadow misses the first attack, he will skip the second attack and go straight to his rising hit. The next attack has a very rare chance of triggering. This is an AoE kind of attack. The shadow rises above Terranort and glows with an aura before he charges up and slams down, causing dark spikes to shoot out of the ground. This can be guarded. This attack actually appears in one of the Remind trailers, though in the Data Battle version, the shadow moves to Sora's position rather than slamming down around Terranort. The last attack is Terranort's ultimate attack. This shows darkness pulling around him as darkness and what could maybe be light shoot up around him. The shadow appears below him in the pool and pops up behind him. The dark and light tendrils spin around the outside of the area, and air pulls Sora to the middle. You can see the current spinning the pool of darkness on the ground. Lightning comes down and circles outwards around the area. During this attack, Terranort disappears and the shadow occasionally strikes at you with a 2-hit attack. He will attack 4 times and then charge up energy around both hands and strike the ground. Pillars of energy can be seen after the screen whites out. You can't block this, but you can dodge through it. Sometimes the shadow will only punch once on his 4th attack before charging up, so be on the lookout for the cue to dodge. While you can block the 2-hit combo from the shadow, be careful of the lightning around you since you may be pushed into it. After the ultimate attack, Terranort will appear to use our Caelum. Saix wanted to point out that Terranort's ultimate attack is time-based, and you can actually go the entire fight without triggering the Guardian's attack. If you stay out of reach, the Guardian will just sit there until the ending attack. When Terranort is hit with a combo finisher, he will flip backwards and land crouched, catching himself with his free hand. Terranort has 3 unique quotes when you die, restart the battle, and defeat him.
Accept the darkness. Is that all the light can muster? What? How?
If you defeat Terranort before Vanitas, the first part of his dying cutscene will play. This shows him losing consciousness and falling to the ground. In this fight, you have 2 allies, Ventus and Aqua. Ventus uses a combo and a strike rate-esque attack in this fight. The combo is actually based on his combo from Birth by Sleep. He adds on Air Flare 1, which is one of his unique finish commands to the end of it. After this combo, he will usually use his Wind Raid command. You can actually see wind around Ven's hand during this attack. Ven's combat in the air is slightly different with him using just the last part of the Air Flare command instead of the whole thing. Ventus can actually miss with his Wind Raid attack. If he does miss, the strike rate will go out and then come back to him. The detail is really impressive. At the end of his combo, you can see him flipping the Keyblade back to his normal position. Aqua uses the same combo that she does when you control her. She will also cast Cure, Thunder, and Blizzard during the fight. Saxer also pointed out that there's a low chance of her using fire as well. The ending cutscene shows Aqua and Ven rushing to help Terra. It seems like the real Terra was conscious for a second, but Xehanort takes back control and sends out chains, capturing all of them in a second. These are the same kinds of chains Terra uses to trap Xehanort in both Birth by Sleep and 0.2. Xehanort tosses Aqua and Ven around, telling them they will never break these chains because they are their bonds. He raises them higher into the air, getting ready to let them drop to their deaths. Ven starts to cry, saying he kept his promise before he drops. Before they hit the ground, Terranort's shadow appears and catches both of them. Grabbing the chain in his hand, he crushes them. This frees Sora, Aqua, and Ven, and the shadow turns to face Terranort. Terranort starts to summon his Keyblade, saying that he had fallen to darkness. Before he can finish his sentence though, the shadow appears beside him and grabs him by the head, lifting him off the ground. The shadow tears off the bandages around his mouth and tries to speak. Struggling, he says, "One day I will set this right." He starts gaining strength and says it again. This is actually the same line he says at the very end of Birth by Sleep. The heart-shaped hole in the shadow begins to glow, and we see that this is indeed Terra. Sora summons his Keyblade, shooting at a golden ray of light. 3 rings of light appear around his Keyblade as well. This ray stuns Terranort, and the shadow leans back as his heart appears. The shadow begins to disappear as the heart flies towards Terranort. Light pours out, and Terra falls to the ground with his hair back to normal, showing he is free from Xehanort's control. He rushes to his friends, picking up Ven as Aqua wakes up. Terra thanks Aqua for lighting the way back, and thanks Ven for finding him like he promised. Tears are shed as they are finally reunited. Sora tells Terra to look after Aqua and Ven as they need rest. Ven disagrees and tries to take a step before stumbling. Sora reminds him that this is what Xehanort wants. He is waiting for them to make a mistake and fall to danger. Aqua tells him that they will catch up to him, and the scene fades as Sora turns around to continue on. Hey you guys, today we're going to be looking at Vanitas. This boss has 2 phases, though the second phase is really just 2 more attacks added on to the rest of them. Vanitas doesn't really follow a set cycle of attacks and will randomly jump from one attack to the next. Most of the attacks are upgraded versions of his attacks from the Keyblade graveyard, though those attacks from Kingdom Hearts 3 all stem from Birth by Sleep. Anyways, the first attack Vanitas can do is a projectile attack. He'll cartwheel once before doing a slash, sending forward a wave of dark energy. You can see darkness on the edge of this, as well as blue electricity arcing around it. He then flips backwards, sending 2 more at you. The first 2 move towards you quickly, but the third wave is much slower, forcing you to time your guard right. Vanitas will then cartwheel and do the same attack again. After the second attack, Vanitas will jump back and be open. He is also open though after the first projectile shot out in both attacks. The next attack is a string of attacks with Vanitas disappearing between them. There will be 4 strikes followed by a break and 2 more strikes. Getting hit by the first 4 strikes will juggle Sora into the air before Vanitas slams you back down. The 2-hit attack is an uppercut, ending with another slam downwards. A dark fire barrage is next and has Vanitas teleporting around the arena, shooting out multiple casts of fire at you. He will open with a double cast, with 1 arcing into the air above you and 1 flying straight towards you. The one going straight towards you will hit you first, with the one arcing into the air, exploding and raining down small fires on you. This happens again before Vanitas teleports a couple of times and shoots a quick shot at you. He then teleports right beside you to deliver another quick shot before teleporting twice and sending a slow shot towards you. As this one gets close to you though, Vanitas will teleport one more time and fire off a quick shot. He'll then do a cartwheel and shoot 1 last shot at you to end the attack. There was an opening during the beginning of this barrage. After the double cast of fire, Vanitas will teleport and shoot a quick shot at you. Countering will create an opening. The next attack he can do is a fire spiral attack. Vanitas dives into the ground and shoots out when he is near you, spiraling into the air and raining down fire all around himself. His Keyblade glows and flashes with magic before he dives underground again. As he rises into the air, dark magic and red electricity circle up around him. After the third attack, Vanitas will slowly fall back down to the ground, open to an attack. Occasionally, Vanitas will teleport above you and do a strong slice downwards instead of falling to the ground. This will spawn a cast of ice that breaks your guard. You can wrist dodge here to create an opening. Another attack Vanitas can do is a ground slam attack. Vanitas will teleport above you 3 times, doing a ground slam each time. On the third time, it'll be the cast of ice and guard break that we saw previously. Again, you can wrist dodge to create an opening. Hitting Vanitas' revenge value will cause him to teleport and do the same attack. The last attack in the first phase uses the iconic Keyblade wave. A dark cloud spawns a wave of Keyblades as Vanitas hops onto it. If you do some damage to him before he jumps on the wave, you can actually cancel out this attack. During this attack, Vanitas will circle around the arena and cast Blizzard at you, which is unblockable. After this, he will dash towards you as the Keyblades glow and electricity arc through the wave. The first and second times are the same, with Vanitas casting 3 shots of Blizzard before dashing at you. The third time though, he will cast 6 Blizzards before dashing at you with an unblockable attack. He actually flips off this when the wave flies towards you the last time. After teleporting, he is open. Saix are one to point out that you can glitch him out if you get above him during this attack. After dealing enough damage, Vanitas will use his ultimate attack before transitioning into his second phase. Let's look at the second phase first. Alongside his first phase attacks, Vanitas will add 2 more into the mix. The first attack mixes together a lot of his attacks into a long combo. He opens this by shooting a cast of slow fire at you before teleporting and striking you upwards. The fire bursts before Vanitas teleports again and strikes downwards. He then shoots 2 quick shots at you before teleporting and slashing upwards at you. Vanitas then does 3 single projectile attacks, teleporting after every one. He'll then end this combo by doing his projectile attack from the first phase, which you can punish. Counterattacking at the wrong time seems to make Vanitas break out of this attack. The last attack shows Vanitas spawning the Keyblades from his wave attack. He'll teleport and send a line of Keyblades towards you with a slash 3 times. He'll then teleport close to you and try to strike into the air before sending another line of Keyblades at you. The last part of this attack is a rising spiral shooting out Keyblades in all directions. You can actually see flashes of magic where the Keyblades are spawned from. Vanitas' ultimate attack opens with him riding his Keyblade before moving to the center. Keyblades fly around him as a shell forms in the center. This is a nod to an attack from the Vanitas sentiment in Birth by Sleep. Clones and Keyblades fly out from the center to attack you. While you can block the clones, the waves of Keyblades are unblockable. His ultimate attack has a pattern that it will always follow. 2 waves fly out on either side of you and hit the ground before the clones jump off and dash towards you. These clones are completely black and kinda remind me of the Nightmare armor from Dream Drop Distance. Anyways, after these clones, a single clone will fly out from the center and do an upward slice. 3 waves will come at you next, with 2 of them flying towards the ground on either side of you. A clone rides the 3rd wave, which flies directly towards you. Another wave then flies towards the ground and 2 more clones slash at you. Another wave flies out and another clone strikes at you before yet another wave comes out and a clone does a ground slam above you. This shoots up a pillar of energy. A clone strikes at you as another clone rides a wave into the ground. Before the clone riding the wave can dash at you, yet another clone attacks you. Another 3-wave attack comes at you with the one having a clone targeting you. This happens 3 times before the 3-clone strike attack happens again. At the end of the 3rd strike though, a wave flies towards you. After this, another set of waves flies towards you, one at a time. The 3rd one has a clone on it that targets you. The opening attack then happens again with 2 clones riding waves into the ground before attacking you. Multiple waves fly out next as a clone appears above you to do a ground slam. Another set of waves slides at you and a single wave targets you. The final attack is another couple waves flying towards the ground and a clone doing a ground slam. Vanitas then drops to the ground, open before moving on to the next attack. The glowing part you can see in the orb here is actually Vanitas' Keyblade. We can see the same kind of effect happening during his ultimate attack in the Keyblade graveyard. Just like in the graveyard, you can block the Keyblade circling Vanitas, though it doesn't seem like you can damage him in the data battle. Also, you are able to skip the whole ultimate attack if you attack him before he lands on his Keyblades. And I think that is it for the Vanitas' data battle. Hey you guys, today we were looking at Data Terranort. This is definitely one of the easier fights, especially compared to Data Riku. That fight was insanely fast paced. This one can be pretty fast paced as well, but most of the attacks are pretty predictable, and most of the openings are easy to hit. Most of the attacks are based off of Terra's moveset from Birth by Sleep actually, so I'll have videos pop up that show the similar moves. Anyways, let's look at the first attack. The first attack Terranort can use against you is his base shot lock from Birth by Sleep, Dark Volley. He will teleport once, spinning around and sending out a volley of shots. He'll do this twice before teleporting and shooting a straight barrage of shots towards you. Blocking this shot lock attack will send the bullets flying back towards Terranort, and during his last barrage, if you are close enough, you can create an opening. The next attack is a variation of Terra's Ars Solum attack. The opening of this attack is unblockable as shown by Terranort's blade glowing red during the strike. Terranort will do the opening of Ars Solum 3 times with the first 3 strikes before teleporting and restarting the attack. On the 3rd time though, Terranort will continue through the rest of the attack. At the end of it, Terranort will strike into the air, teleporting above you and doing an unblockable slamming attack that shoots out a giant shockwave. This is actually incredibly similar to an effect in Dream Drop Distance when Riku is using Ghost Drive. Obviously the effects are different since Riku actually has ghosts flying from his effects, but the effect animation is extremely similar. You can actually hit Terranort out of the last part of his attack. The next attack is a dash attack where Terranort will dash at you 5 times. This is Terra's dash from Birth by Sleep. If you are in the air, you can guard and send him towards the ground. This creates an opening. It also seems like this attack will trigger if you stay in the air too long. The last normal attack has Terranort summoning his Guardian to do a number of different attacks. There is a 1-2 hit where the Guardian slams down before doing an uppercut attack with both hands. For the first attack, an orb of darkness appears around the Guardian's hand while 2 waves of darkness circle in around it. This is pretty similar to when Dark Riku is using darkness to attack. This only happens for the first attack though, and darkness surrounds the Guardian's hands as soon as he appears for the second attack. The Guardian can also do a ground pound attack where he slams his fist into the ground, causing spikes to burst out in a large area. This is unblockable and has the same effect we saw earlier around the Guardian's hand, except it has a red color to it. The last attack the Guardian can do is an attack from below. A pool of darkness spawns below you and a beam of light shoots out from the center. Before the Guardian attacks, the light will pulse. He'll do this twice before moving on to another attack. This is a callback all the way to this attack from Kingdom Hearts 1. I've seen two different variations of this whole section. Either the Guardian will start with the 1-2 hit, followed by the Pool of Darkness attack and ending with the Ground Slam, or he will do the Ground Slam attack followed by the 1-2 attack twice. After the Guardian disappears, Terranort will stop floating with his arms crossed and will be open briefly. Terranort's ultimate attack seems to be able to trigger at any point rather than triggering when the enemy's health is low. Darkness circles out around Terranort before it pulls out over the ground. Two lines of lightning will circle in and out around the arena. Terranort will disappear and the Guardian will stay back to attack. To keep you from just gliding away for the whole attack, red lightning comes down, trapping you in a tight circle. The Guardian will teleport 3 times doing his uppercut attack and sending forward 2 rows of lightning. This is an attack he did in Birth by Sleep. At the end, the Guardian will raise both hands as red darkness spins around them. He'll slam both hands down, creating multiple pillars of light. If you dodge at the right time, you can avoid damage. During the second phase, the Guardian will teleport more quickly and will do 5 attacks rather than 3. Terranort will also appear in the second phase to shoot at you with dark volleys. The first time he appears, he will shoot a line of shots at you, and the second time, Terranort will appear in the middle and shoot out volleys in all directions. In his second phase, Terranort will do some of his attacks from the first phase, though he will subtly change some others. Alongside his phase 1 shot lock that he will still use, in his second phase, Terranort can also do a line of dark volley shots 3 times in a row. He'll move to shoot at you if you try to run away. Blocking back the third set of shots will still create an opening. The Guardian attacks are the same, though there is another variation added. This one starts with the Pool of Darkness attack, followed by the 1-2 attack before the Guardian does another pool attack. The Guardian then does a Ground Slam attack and another 1-2 attack. The dash attack in the second phase is just 1 dash, and blocking in the air will create an opening. If you miss or get hit, Terranort will do his Solemn attack from the first phase, though he will skip the teleporting parts and just do 1 full Solemn attack. There's also a second phase version of Solemn. This one is completely unblockable. Terranort charges up before going through his combo, teleporting every couple of strikes and ending with 2 downward slams. He'll then charge again and go through his combo, ending with only 1 downward slam. Anytime he does his downward slam, he is open. If you hit Terranort's revenge value, the Guardian will appear and do his Ground Slam attack. Terranort also has 2 quotes when you defeat him or are defeated by him. I'll play those right now.
Is that all the light can muster?
And that is all I have for you guys today. I really liked how they made an emphasis to stick with a lot of Terra's original attacks. They could have easily changed up his whole moveset, but they took the time to pay homage to an older game, and I appreciate that a lot. Hey you guys, today we are continuing the Keyblade Graveyard series by taking a look at the fight between Luxord, Larxene, and Marluxia. Like last time, I plan to look at everything involved with this fight, including cutscenes and puzzles, so it's going to be another long one. A huge thank you to Saixer. He read through my script and added in some things I never would have picked out or seen. At the end of each character breakdown, I will insert his notes on what I missed. I will leave a link down in the description below to his Twitter and YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. The puzzle on this route involves walls that all rise up to different heights to block Sora's path. Darkness can be seen from the floor while they rise. You can wall run up these, so just holding forward will get you to the end of the puzzle in time. You can also jump off one of the higher walls and glide to the end as well. This puzzle seems a little too easy, especially when you have glide. On the actual walls, there are 3 symbols. The first is this cross in the center. It looks to be some kind of boat or hat in the spaces between the points. The only connection I could find was this cross on the ground in Scala. The next symbol seems to be flying birds. This reminds me of the birds seen in Scala at Caelum during the opening cutscene. The last symbol seems to be some kind of portal, though I don't really have any evidence or connections to prove that. Saixer pointed out that while you can run up these, they don't have the white bar on them to show you that you can scale them. For the actual battle, you can see Mickey fighting the org members. This will loop until you enter the battle. Mickey will go after Marluxia before turning to ward off Larxene. He then blocks Marluxia's attack and gets a hit in before Luxord's attack hits him. Mickey goes to attack Luxord before Larxene attacks. Mickey evades the last hit, only to be hit from behind by Marluxia, and then it will loop until you start the battle. The opening cutscene of this fight shows Mickey surrounded by the enemy. Mickey evades Luxord and Larxene's attacks and flips over Marluxia's sneak attack. Mickey lands in front of Xemnas and the other three appear. Sora arrives and Xemnas finally acts. He rises into the air before summoning orbs around his hands. He brings his hands together as darkness appears around him. Dark thorns spread out around the arena, trapping Mickey and Sora in. It's interesting that Xemnas doesn't act until Sora shows up. During this 3v2 battle, I would just focus on Luxord since the other two do the same attacks as normal. Luxord uses only one attack during this section. He summons 4 cards around Sora that spin around him before they stop and shoot towards him. This can be blocked or dodged. Luxord uses the same animation as this one from Kingdom Hearts 2. You can't stop it with the reaction command this time though. Luxord has crazy high defense here, though any damage done to him disappears in the next section. Luxord will get off 4 of these attacks and will begin a 5th before the game transitions. The next scene shows Xemnas giving Luxord a boost in power before he pulls back his barrier and disappears. Luxord throws out cards creating his own barrier. He throws a card at Sora which Mickey blocks. Knowing how much Luxord likes to play mind games, I imagine he knew Mickey would jump in to save Sora. The card has Roxas' symbol on it, though this is also the top part of the nobody symbol. Anyways, Mickey gets trapped in the card and Luxord asks Sora for one more game. All he needs to do is find Luxord in the cards and strike him down. This battle is pretty interesting. The goal of this fight is to find Luxord in the cards, circling the outside of the arena. In the first round, the cards will stand still and only Luxord's card will move, showing you his location. Hitting the wrong one in this round will just result in the card disappearing. After you find Luxord, he'll be stunned for a second, letting you deal a certain amount of damage to him. You can get about a third of his health down before he shuffles the cards and disappears. The second round has moving cards that are decoys. These decoy cards float straight up and down rather than the shaking that Luxord's card does. Hitting one of these will result in the card exploding and damaging Sora. The normal decoys from the first round are still here though. These make no movement at all, and hitting them will just have them disappearing like the first round. The third round has no normal decoys, replacing all the cards with exploding decoys. If you cannot find him fast enough, he will appear and attack you with the card move he used before. Striking a decoy card after Luxord appears will not cause an explosion. Both Larxene and Marluxia cannot be damaged during this section. If you attack though, they will turn into a card and disappear, giving you a little bit of time to look for Luxord without anyone attacking you. Luxord only has one quote, which is when he is defeated.
Now, let the game begin. Figure the rules out.
Luck has betrayed you.
Though, he is impressed when you find him, and will say shuffle when he's shuffling the cards around. When Luxord is knocked back, he will transform into a card and disappear if you have dealt too much damage. One last thing I want to point out here is that when he is in the middle of shuffling his cards, he takes minimal damage. It's almost like he is letting you beat him when you play by the rules of his game, but he could easily tank all of your hits. I know that's a reach, but we do know from the Remind trailers that Luxord is a special player in this game. Saxo pointed out that a good way to find the card is by using your shot lock. Most shot locks will work besides the counter shield and frying pan ones. Anyways, after defeating Luxord, cards fall to the ground, and Luxord tells Sora that he was born for these sorts of games. Luxord throws him a wild card, telling him it could turn the tables. Other than Luxord's blank cards, we have seen the X and circle patterns as well as cards with a clock on them. I can't imagine any of these will be the wild cards, so I'm interested to see how this is used. From the Remind trailers, we know Sora is going to possibly lose all of his power, so this could be the way that he will save himself. Another thing in the Remind trailers is that we see Luxord throw Xigbar card. Is this also a wild card that could quote-unquote turn the tables for Xigbar? Anyways, Sora tells Luxord he would like to play games with him again before Luxord disappears. Mickey is released from the card before the battle against Larxene and Marluxia begins. Let's look at Larxene's combat first. Larxene has 3 attacks. The first attack has Larxene flipping into the air and striking down at the ground. A gold ring circles in during this, and when she hits the ground, lightning shoots out across the ground before 5 bolts of lightning come down. Dark thorns circle around these bolts of lightning. When Larxene strikes down, a red and yellow beam of light shoots up. You can't block this, so maybe the subtle tint of red on the strike and the bolt of lightning is supposed to signify that. You can either dodge out of the way of this attack, or move slightly to dodge this. Blocking will result in you getting hit back, which will usually bounce you off one of the bolts of lightning. Larxene's next attack is a 4-hit combo that ends with Larxene in the air. The slosh effect is actually behind Larxene during all of her attacks to show just how fast she is moving. All of this can be guarded against. After the uppercut to end the combo, Larxene throws 8 daggers into the ground. Lightning trails behind them, and when they hit the ground, lightning arcs outwards. If you guard against this, you will block a couple of the hits, but eventually your guard breaks. If you have wrist dodge equipped, you can slide to safety. If Larxene is alone, she will follow us up with her lightning strike. You can also just dodge through the daggers and be safe on the other side. If you dodge the entire attack, Larxene will not throw her daggers into the ground. When you are stuck in the combo, you have just enough time to get off a guard when she throws her daggers down. To tell the difference between both of Larxene's normal attacks, if she starts running towards you, she will jump up and use her lightning attack. Her other attack has no windup and she'll immediately go into her combo. Larxene's last attack is her ultimate attack. She charges up and her dagger's blades become longer. She dashes forward and changes into an orb of lightning with dark thorns circling around it. She ricochets multiple times before she reappears to slash at Sora. The lightning path changes to a red color right before she appears, so use this cue to either guard or evade the attack. She will attack 5 times before she appears in the center and calls down lightning on the entire arena. Look out for the pillars of light appearing on the ground to evade this attack. This is a little harder to dodge when Marluxia teams up with her since you can't stay on the ground during the AoE attack. After this attack, Larxene will dodge around a couple of times before she resumes attacking. When Larxene is hit away by a combo finisher, she will flip backwards before she lands and jumps backwards, twirling in the air. The only attack I could find that was similar to the attacks in Kingdom Hearts 3 was this attack in Kingdom Hearts 2, where Larxene runs at you and calls down lightning. Other than that, I couldn't link any attacks to the Kingdom Hearts 3 attacks. Larxene has 3 notable quotes: when you restart a battle, when you die, and when you defeat her.
Really? Do we have to do this? What a dumb way to go. No way.
Saixer found that sometimes Larxene will just use her lightning dagger attack by itself rather than putting it on the end of a combo. Also with this attack here, Saixer found that you can actually just jump above her to dodge it. Larxene will stay close to Marluxia during their joint DM and won't follow you into the air when you glide, but when she is alone, she will go higher to attack you. And Saixer also found a unique quote that doesn't happen when Marluxia is with her.
Bye-bye.
When Larxene falls, we see her attitude start to fade away. When Sora asks why Larxene teamed up with Xehanort, she says that she was just along for the ride. She doesn't say who she was along for the ride with. I would guess that it is Marluxia, but he seems surprised to see her appear in the real organization, which means they didn't come in together. Of course, she could have just easily become a nobody and followed Marluxia without colluding with him. Anyways, that is it for Larxene. Let's look at Marluxia. Marluxia also has 3 attacks. The first attack is a sneak attack where Marluxia appears right beside you to hit you into the air. When fighting beside Larxene, Marluxia will only do this 3 times. He'll do it 5 times if he is alone. Blocking successfully will stop this attack after 2 times. If you get hit by the first attack but dodge the second, Marluxia will slice at you one more time, so be sure to dodge. The other attack shows Marluxia throwing a scythe and spinning it around himself, drawing Sora in with the air. Darkness pulls below him and spins with the current. The attack consists of Marluxia spinning multiple times, slashing out at Sora with a scythe. The last hit of the attack breaks Sora's guard. When he is alone, he will follow up with a disappearing slice attack. Wrist dodging needs to be timed since using it too early will have you dodging before Marluxia disappears to attack. This will cause him to teleport to where you dodged to hit you into the air. Marluxia's last attack shows him spinning the scythe behind himself as he rises into the air. Marluxia flips and throws his scythe forward. This will travel across the arena, coming at you a number of times. Sometimes Marluxia will appear and catch his scythe to throw it back at you quickly. Guarding this can be a bit finicky, so I suggest dodging this attack when it is close. At the end of this attack, Marluxia spins into the air before moving to the middle of the arena, spinning the scythe behind him. He sinks his scythe into the ground, causing pink energy to shoot up from the middle, while darkness pulls out across the ground. Red points of energy appear on the edge of the area. Tendrils of darkness and rose petals can also be seen in the air at the end. Glide or air dodge to avoid the ground. From what I've seen, dodging on the ground is not possible. When Marluxia is hit by a combo finisher, he will flip backwards before catching himself with one hand and flipping back into a handspring. All of Marluxia's attacks can be seen in the fight from Kingdom Hearts 2. His DM in Kingdom Hearts 3 is slightly different since in Kingdom Hearts 2, he joins his scythe instead of just throwing it at Sora. Marluxia has 3 quotes that happen when you restart the battle, when you die, and when you defeat him.
I'll scatter you to the wind. Sleep for all eternity.
See ya!
See, this is your heart.
A couple of things Saixer want to note is that during the DM together, Larxene will sometimes attack less than 5 times. It seems to depend on how far Marluxia is into his DM. For Marluxia's DM, it seems like he has to meet a couple of criteria to appear and throw his scythe. The first is that he has to be on screen. If you are off screen, he will not grab his scythe and throw it at you. The second criteria is that you have to have some space between Sora and the scythe. If you are a certain distance away, Marluxia will appear and throw the scythe back at you quickly. Also, it seems like Marluxia and Larxene attack in sync a lot when Mickey is dead. When Marluxia is defeated, he begins to finally remember his past, thanking Sora before he disappears. And that is it for Marluxia. Let's look at your ally for this battle. Mickey is your ally in this battle. He has what looks to be a ground combo, an air attack, and this pearl attack. These are really similar to his other appearances throughout the series. I think I already mentioned this, but I love how there are combos that each character kind of sticks to throughout the series. The ground combo is a quick thrust forward, a 3-hit combo before ending with a circling combo finisher. When in the air, Mickey does a spinning slash to the enemy before doing the 3-hit combo and circling finisher like his ground combo. The Pearl attack is usually used after a successful combo. After defeating the enemies, Mickey tells Sora to go find the others while he goes after Xemnas. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Luxord's Dado battle. Now that I think about it, I think it's Luxord. Either way, I might switch between the two, just we acknowledge it. I'm gonna say the name wrong. Let's move on. I know last time I said Larxene was the easiest fight, but this one is also pretty simple. There are 2 phases, though no extra attacks are added between the phases. Some of the attacks simply change slightly. How I'll cover this fight is I will just look at both phases at once, noting the difference between the two as I talk through them. I'll then look at his ultimate attack to end off the video, and oh boy, I hate his ultimate attack. It just keeps going and going and going. And the first attack we'll be looking at is a simple card attack where Luxord summons 4 cards all around Sora. These attack all at once. Blocking will negate the cards, though getting hit or dodging will cause the cards to fall to the floor. If the cards fall outside of the arena, they will disappear with a cool effect and drop somewhere else on the field. You may have noticed that the wind-up to this attack is his wind-up to reaction command game from his KH2 fight. I love the fluid motions and the cards flying around him. It just feels really good. Luxord will be open after this attack, and as long as you aren't hit, you'll have enough time to make it over to him. Luxord will always use a card to teleport away, since I don't believe he actually ever walks or moves in any way. This attack does not change during the second phase. The next attack is what I call the card pillar attack. Luxord spins his cards around him before slamming his hand towards the ground, launching him into the air with a pillar of cards flowing down below him. Cards fly out in all directions, but only 2 sets of 3 cards will actually do damage. These will be highlighted with an aura and will home in towards Sora. You can block these, though if you want to hit Luxord, you may want to dodge through and ignore them. He'll be open at the height of his jump, as well as when he comes down. Air stepping to him will be your best option to create an opening. This attack also does not change, and I swear I didn't plan it to have all these attacks that don't change in the second phase grouped up together, but it kind of works out. Luxord can also teleport around the arena, throwing cards at you. The first 2 throws are single cards that will slowly fly towards you before gaining an aura and picking up speed. The third attack still has the same slow card throw, but Luxord also throws an additional card in an arc that immediately speeds towards you. He'll then teleport, throw 1 more single card towards you before winding up with a circling card trick and throwing 3 cards at you at once. Dodging through this last attack will leave him open. No changes happen with this attack either in the second phase. The next attack has Luxord moving to the center and casting a barrier around himself. Cards will move around him, with all of them having the Roxas X symbol and 1 having a red circle. Attacking an X or taking too long to hit the circle will cause the cards to explode, damaging Sora. After hitting a circle, the cards will spin and another red circle will appear. If you hit all of them, the barrier will break and Luxord will be thrown into the air, open to attack. I think it's interesting that Luxord is able to make a barrier similar to the ones Keyblade wielders can make, given that we know he is somehow connected to the ancient Keyblade legacy. In the second phase, Luxord will move the cards farther out away from him. The last attack has Luxord summoning sets of 2 cards that move towards Sora. When they reach him, they change into red portal-looking cards. These will close in on Sora and hit him up into the air. You can't block these, so dodge out of the way or dispel them to stay safe. To dispel these cards, you need to cast the corresponding element on them. So for the first phase, I've only seen Thunder, while in the second phase, they will alternate between Fire and Thunder from what I've seen. In the first phase, 3 sets of cards will fly towards you. If you don't dodge or dispel any of them, 3 sets of portal cards will keep hitting you up into the air. Taking away a set will take away an attack. You can see cards fall on the field if you get hit by this attack. Luxord will appear for a second after this attack, so dodge and hit his opening. I already mentioned that during the second phase, the cards will alternate between Thunder and Fire. There's also another set of cards that are spawned as well. Now let's talk about these cards on the ground. After almost every attack, cards will fall on the ground if you do not block or negate them in some way. From time to time, Luxord will teleport to the center and turn himself into a card, shuffling the other cards in the arena before placing them randomly on the field. Your job is to either find Luxord or hit all the red circles. It is easy to find these red circles since they will not turn with the camera. Keep an eye out on the ground since one of the fake cards will home in on you and explode every so often. When you hit all the red circle cards, the rest of the cards will reveal themselves and you can pick out Luxord. The rest of the cards show these warped clock hands. If there are not a lot of cards, you can easily keep track of which card is Luxord's and go straight for them when the cards appear. If you wait too long to get the Luxord or you hit the wrong card, all of the cards will explode and Sora will be thrown into the air. This is a callback to this move from KH2, where he would mix himself up with trap cards and you had to find Luxord in the shuffled cards. Finally, let's look at Luxord's ultimate attack. When his time gauge gets to a certain point, he will throw his deck of cards surrounding the arena. Also, Sora's not even phased by this, like, are you okay? Is anyone in there? Anyways, we see Luxord float into the air before changing into a card. The cards slowly descend and start to circle around the arena. Honestly, now that I look at this is a lot less intense than it seems. Luxord will appear on a card and you have to make sure you hit him and not an X. The cards will slowly close in around Sora, but if you hit Luxord 3 times, you will keep your time gauge and trigger the next row of cards to come down. Every so often the cards will all fall onto the ground and shoot upwards below Sora. This happens twice before the last 3 rows of cards all come down. These last 3 rows of cards are similar, but Luxord will flip and change to an X card. When he does appear in his open, the cards beside him will throw their X's forward like shurikens. If you dodge them, you can flip Luxord's card and move on to the next row. Hitting all 3 will leave him dazed and open to attack. Throughout this attack, making the wrong choice and flipping an X card will move you to the next row of cards, and in the final 3 rows, getting one wrong card will trigger a strong counterattack from Luxord. The cards all circle around Sora much like it does in Kingdom Hearts 2 actually. This takes a huge chunk out of your time gauge. There were a couple more things I want to touch on before the end of the video. The time gauge has a unique render for Sora, and I really like it a lot. I'm not sure if there's a full render of this in the files, but if there is, I would love to see it. I believe Luxord's render is also unique since his official render has him pondering and his cards are lowered down beside him. It's cool that they took the time to make unique renders just for this fight. Luxord also has no revenge attack for damaging him too much. He'll just teleport away and move on to his next attack. Lastly, you can lose the fight when your time gauge depletes, which does not trigger a voice line and just has the camera pulling back as it whites out. Ooh, actually this is the last thing. There weren't many attacks that were similar in the Days combat from what I saw. Luxord would have the cards flying around him while casting magic and attacking, but I never saw one that directly lined up with the data battle attacks. The closest one was this attack that is slightly similar to the card pillar attack, but not really. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. This was honestly a pretty detailed fight, and the small little changes in the second phase was a nice touch. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Larxene's data battle. This is probably the simplest data battle in terms of design and difficulty. A far cry from... yeah. I can actually move in this fight, which is really nice. The simplicity in this fight comes from there only being one major phase. Larxene uses the same attacks throughout her entire fight, though adds on a strong ultimate attack a third of the way through the fight, and a second one 2/3 of the way in. So pretty much I'll go through each of Larxene's attacks, and then cover the ultimate attacks in her arsenal. The first attack we'll be looking at is her basic combo. She will usually start with a cartwheel before dashing towards Sora with 2 swipe attacks. She'll then cartwheel around Sora to attack him with a 4-hit combo. The last hit throws him back into the air while Larxene flips back and throws her daggers into the ground. These shoot out electricity. Shocking. I know. You can see a dome appear around each dagger point as well as some dark thorns. As Larxene falls, she will teleport away, leaving herself open. Guarding against this electrical attack will break your guard and allow you to wrist dodge to hit that opening. This, alongside some other lightning-based attacks, will give Sora the static effect, though I believe this status effect only triggers when you walk into a party member. What is supposed to happen is that this status effect gives both you and your party member a shock and deals some damage. Here though you can't trigger it, so it may just be a leftover effect from the Keyblade graveyard fight. This backflip attack is actually seen in her combo from Days, which is a really nice touch. Some of the beginning of the combo also stems from Chain of Memories. The next attack is a series of lightning strikes. Larxene cartwheels backwards and raises her hand to the air, calling down lightning, which she catches and spins, slashing out, sending pillars of lightning flying towards you. These cannot be blocked, so dodge through them to avoid damage. Larxene will be open after the third set of lightning strikes. This reminds me a lot of the magic from Days actually, where using lightning sends forward lightning in a line. This is also an attack from the KH2 data battle. Kind of. The next attack is Larxene's diving strike attack. Larxene teleports and appears strafing around you before jumping into the air, flipping a couple of times as a ring of light closes around her and Sora. Her strike spawns pillars of lightning in a circle, and what will usually happen is Larxene's strike will hit you into one of the lightning strikes as a kind of 1-2 attack. Larxene will follow this up with another strike, and dodging it will create an opening. You can also actually parry her out of the first strike if you time your attack well enough. This attack may be a nod to this one from her KH2 data battle. This also reminds me of Sora's AoE Thundaza magic, since that also has the Circle of Light and Pillars of Lightning. I think it's a nice parallel since we know Larxene is a Keyblade wielder, and I desperately want her knives to turn out to be a form change of the missing 8 Keyblade. I've actually made a whole video on the topic of the org members and their Keyblade transformations about a year or so ago at this point, which I'll have linked up in the corner of the screen. Anyways, this is a breakdown, not a theory video. The next attack is another string of lightning strikes, but these are much slower. Larxene will zip around, transforming into a ball of lightning to quickly move around the arena, sending forward a set of lightning strikes. The first 3 are slow and pretty easy to dodge, but the 4th is an incredibly fast attack. After this, Larxene will teleport above you with 4 quick dives, with the last one summoning a giant pillar of lightning that cannot be blocked. The first 3 dives can be, and if you counter or dodge during the last strike, Larxene will be open. This diving strike attack can also trigger if you are in the air sometimes. This attack stems from an attack in the KH2 data battle. Also, I want to point out that the Ball of Lightning zipping attack looks really similar to an attack that Riku can do in Dream Drop Distance. If you are in the air during the last slow lightning attack, Larxene will skip the last attack and do her diving strike instead. The last attack I have seen shows a blend of her attacks. Larxene will dash over to you during her first 2 strikes of her combo we saw earlier, before dashing away again and delivering 2 more strikes that send you into the air. She then dashes away and sends a slow line of lightning towards you before dashing again to strike through you with an attack that was part of her DM in her Keyblade graveyard fight. This attack has her changing her daggers into claws to slash through you. You can air step the Larxene during her lightning pillar attack for an opening. There's another mixed kind of attack that I found during my post-edit process. This one starts with her ground slam before she does 2 sets of dashing strike attacks and ends with her knife throw. Now let's look at her ultimate attacks. These are based on a lot of Larxene's attacks from her KH2 data battle. Rather than point out each part, I'll have a box in the corner appear during similar moments so that I don't stop every couple seconds to point them out. For her first ultimate attack, Larxene will teleport to the center of the arena and glow with electricity. She will disappear before creating clones of herself and shooting out from a portal in all directions. 2 clones will then appear, both during the quick diving strikes we saw earlier. This will happen 3 times before the next phase of the ultimate attack starts. Attacking the clones here before they start their attack will stop them from doing their diving strike. The next part of this attack has Larxene lining up her clones to do another dash towards Sora. You can actually see Larxene spinning towards you during these dash attacks. During this phase, 3 clones appear before 2 disappear, and Larxene forms her lightning claws and dashes forward. 2 of the clones will do the first part of the normal combo we have seen before Larxene dashes at you with her claws. The 2 clones will then do the dagger throw attack one after the other. For the next phase, 3 clones will appear right in front of you to dash at you. 4 clones make up this phase. 3 of the clones will take turns doing a spinning slash at you before sending forward lightning strikes. This will happen 3 times before they all do the diving strike attack. You can block the spinning strike, which will break your guard, but create a wrist dodge opening that will stop them from using their lightning strikes. You do have to time this pretty carefully though, since when you do the wrist dodge, it's possible that another clone will already start her attack and hit you out of it. The last part of the ultimate attack has the clones circling around Sora. They create a circle of lightning around him before all converging as Larxene does an unblockable strike upwards. Larxene shoots electricity out from her hands as tons of knives appear all around her. These spin before moving back towards her. Larxene will be opened right after the attack, as well as after dashing back to the ground. I found multiple variations to this dash attack that Larxene does during the ultimate attack. I'll have them up on screen, but I wasn't able to find a rhyme or reason to what triggered each one. Larxene's other ultimate attack is a bit simpler. It opens the same way, with Larxene moving to the center and glowing, but 4 clones move out around her before they all disappear. The 4 clones all dash at you with the claw daggers before Larxene does her flipping lightning strike attack. The dash and claw attacks happen again, but Larxene then does the diving strikes instead. All of the clones and Larxene then move far away to send forward pillars of lightning at different speeds before it ends the same way as the last ultimate attack. Lastly, Larxene has some lines she says when she defeats you and when you defeat her. I'll play them for you here.
What a dumb way to go.
And I think that is all I have for you guys today. This is definitely an easy fight, but I liked how they were callbacks to the previous games. The devs didn't have to do that, but it was a nice touch. Hey you guys, today we're looking at a data battle that does not make me sad with how insane it is. Marluxia. Yes, I'm looking at you, Dark Riku, Saix, Xion, and Jesus, why are there so many of these that are so chaotic? Anyways, this fight compared to the other battles is relatively simple. Marluxia cycles through a number of attacks which are pretty telegraphed. Usually the last attack will either break or go through your guard, so be ready to dodge and follow up with the opening. As always with these data battles, there are some nods to previous movesets and attacks from the previous games. And rather than say that this attack comes from this game or this game, I'll just have it appear up on screen. Let's look at the first phase. While Marluxia does have a set cycle of attacks, it is hard to find a rhyme or reason to the whole cycle. So I'll just be going over the attacks that show up in the first phase rather than point out the succession of attacks. Like I said before, these are pretty telegraphed. The first attack Marluxia can do is a teleporting combo attack. When Marluxia first appears, he spins his scythe behind himself before slashing forward. He'll then teleport beside you in the air, slicing upwards. This will launch you into the air where Marluxia will slash and do an uppercut before ending with an unblockable attack. The hit effects from Marluxia look really cool, with petals appearing around a pinkish vortex. After this last hit, Marluxia will teleport away, leaving himself open to attack. After most attacks, Marluxia will teleport away and slowly walk towards you. After a couple seconds, or if you get too close, he will teleport away and continue attacking. For his next attack, Marluxia will twist into the air before throwing his scythe forward. This will fly towards Sora before arcing around to slice at him again. Both of these attacks can be blocked. Marluxia will then teleport to the scythe and catch it before quickly throwing it back at Sora. This scythe throw is unblockable. Marluxia will teleport and catch the scythe, and as he falls, he'll be open. After some more menacing walking, Marluxia will do a pull-in attack. Marluxia crouches as he spins his scythe around him, creating a current of air that pulls Sora in. You can see the scythe flying through the air during this, which is what is hitting you during the pull-in. At the end, Marluxia will grab the scythe and twist into the air, slicing downwards with an unblockable attack. Dodging this will create an opening. Marluxia will then do this pull-in again, though there's only a current on the ground and you can't see one in the air. After pulling you in, Marluxia will flip into the air, spinning a scythe around himself before slamming back down, pushing out a pink shockwave. This has some similarities to his slam attack from his Keyblade graveyard fight actually. While there is not a dark pool on the ground like in the Keyblade graveyard, the lights in the shockwave are the same as the lights seen on the edges of the arena. During the shockwave attack, you can actually be hit by a spinning scythe while he is in the air. This slams you back down to the ground actually. After this attack, Marluxia will have armor for a bit, stopping you from staggering him. A cast of fire will instantly dispel this armor and create an opening. In this phase, Marluxia can also summon these pods that circle around you and shoot energy blasts every so often. These are from his final form fight in Chain of Memories. It looks like the most he can summon around you is 2 sets of pods. Having counter impact makes quick work of these, and after getting rid of them all, Marluxia will appear in the center of the arena, open for an attack. I'm not sure if it is connected, but when these pods are summoned, Marluxia will sometimes do a different kind of combo. Instead of the usual slash and then uppercut, Marluxia does 2 quick slashes before doing an upper slash and ending with an unblockable attack. He then follows this up with another upper slash before another 2 hits and ending with another unblockable attack. Another attack Marluxia can do shows him spinning a scythe before slamming the handle into the ground. You can actually see that the scythe spins around his body up to his raised hand. He teleports above you as a pool appears beneath you. Thorns push up out of the pool as Marluxia spins above Sora, setting up to slam him back down to the ground. This animation Marluxia does is actually the same as the attack he does with the Shockwave and Armor combo. 2 more pools appear to damage you as Marluxia teleports and dashes towards you with an unblockable attack. This attack is also his retaliation if you attack him too much. The last attack in this phase has Marluxia summoning 4 giant pools and teleporting to 3 of them, dragging you in each time. On the 3rd pool, he will spin towards you, slashing at you multiple times before ending with a strong slice down that breaks your guard. You can wrist dodge here to create an opening. This spinning slash attack can also be used outside of this dark pool attack. Speaking of these pools, they will actually not hurt you until they glow and shoot out thorns. Personally, I didn't know that, so I was always trying to stay outside of them, but it's pretty cool to know that these actually don't hurt you until they do. After 4 bars of damage have been dealt to Marluxia, he will rise into the air with his scythe swinging behind him like a pendulum. He'll teleport behind Sora and whisper something to him, like, "Your friends actually hate you." I don't know. I always did wonder what Marluxia says to him. I actually made a meme on Twitter that was like, what was it? It was like, all of your games will be ported to PC and people will do unspeakable things to you. Anyways, Sora then looks down at his hand and arm as a nobody sigil appears behind him and thorns wrap up around him. A counter appears above his head and counts down from 15 during this phase. Marluxia strikes the ground, creating a giant pool on the ground that covers the entire arena. During this phase, Marluxia will have armor that you need to get rid of before you can dispel the Doom counter. If the Doom counter reaches 0, it's an instant game over. Marluxia uses a mixture of moves we have seen in the first phase. He does his pull-in attack before his usual combo. He can also do his retaliation attack as well as a pull-in and spinning slash attack. A skull will emerge from the pool sometimes with thorns accompanying it. You'll know this is coming because a light will glow around the arena and there will be a pulse before it comes out. With the giant guardian that Marluxia rides in Chain of Memories, and the connections that has to Marluxia's sister Strelitzia, it's pretty safe to assume that this giant skull may be a nod to her as well. Of course, Marluxia is linked with Death and the Grim Reaper, and you have a Doom counter above your head, so it could also just be a symbol that Death is looming over Sora. After depleting Marluxia's armor, the Dispel command appears. This shows Sora using the end of the second form transformation animation, which is also the dry form animation. After this part of the battle, you will essentially be in the second phase. During the second phase, Marluxia will still use the same attacks as the first phase, but will also use a shortened version of the attack we just went over. You won't have to dispel a timer over your head, nor will Marluxia have armor, and the attack will only last until the skull rises from the pool. After that, the arena will go back to normal, and Marluxia will continue with his attacks. When you deal another chunk of damage to Marluxia, he will rise into the air with his scythe quickly spinning behind him. Marluxia dons armor as he quickly throws his scythe forward. He'll teleport and catch the scythe before throwing it at Sora again. While you can block the first throw, the second one is unblockable. Marluxia will then catch the scythe and twist into the air, moving towards the center. He'll still have his aura, though his armor gauge will disappear. 4 pools appear on the ground before Marluxia plunges his scythe into the ground, causing the pools to shoot up thorns. A giant pool covers the whole ground, and 7 beams of light appear in a circle around Marluxia. This big attack signals the final phase of this fight. In this final phase, Marluxia will change a couple of attacks. In the attack where he drags you into pools, the thorns will shoot out sooner, meaning you cannot block the pull-in and then dodge on the first pull. When Marluxia throws a scythe at you, instead of being open at the end, he will dash towards you to strike before doing another scythe throw. This second throw will have the opening at the end. Marluxia will also occasionally do the scythe throw and ground slam he did after his health got too low. Speaking of, this is actually part of his ultimate attack in the Keyblade Graveyard fight. When you get Marluxia down to 1 HP, he will teleport to the center of the arena. He will do the same kind of animation he did before when he spawned the counter over Sora's head. A timer from 99 will quickly count down as Marluxia throws his scythe forward and disappears. This can be blocked, though after a bit Marluxia will catch it and throw it quickly at Sora, making it unblockable. This will happen 2 more times, though on the 3rd round of scythe spins, Marluxia will appear more quickly and do 3 quick throws that are all unblockable. After this he will rise into the air to do his ground slam attack. During the entire attack, Marluxia will have armor on, but during this last hit, he will lose that armor. You can either wait until the end of the attack and try to hit him with the last few seconds you have left on your timer, or you can shoot a fire whenever he appears to dispel his armor and leave him open. One strategy I found to be useful is to have the frying pan form change and save up a level 2 counter attack, since that all deals fire damage, and just use that at the end. Marluxia has some lines he says when he defeats you and when he is defeated. I'll play them for you here. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. I have always loved Marluxia's movesets and fights, and his data battle in KH3 did not disappoint. There's something very graceful about him, and the possible nod to Strelitzia in this fight has me intrigued. Also, do you see what I did there? Because he's called the graceful assassin. Hey you guys, today we're going to be breaking down the Xion and Saix fight in the Keyblade Graveyard. Like the previous videos on the Keyblade Graveyard bosses, I will cover the puzzles, combat, and cutscenes, so let's get right into it. One quick note right at the beginning, I will be referring to Axel as Lee during this to avoid confusion. I will use Axel a couple of times when I'm quoting somebody, but technically this is the somebody Lee. The puzzle right before the fight is kind of similar to the one before Luxord Marluxia in Larxene's battle. Pillars shoot up from the ground with darkness spilling out of the bottom. You can see where the pillars are shooting up from, since the ground glows with the red circuitry before they shoot up. The pillars come up in groups of 3, and they are pretty easy to dodge. You can pretty easily just glide out of the way. If you are hit, you can just recover and keep gliding. At the new height, you won't be hit. Even if you get to the end quickly, the pillars will keep spawning until time runs out. If you dodge through them, the pillars will not spawn. Like the other puzzles, there are symbols on these pillars. On the top, it looks to be Roxas' symbol, as well as 12 points around it. On the sides of the pillar look to be Oathkeeper and what I can only assume to be Oblivion. It's interesting that one of the Guardians of Light is on the ruins rather than one of the Orc members. Before the battle, you can see a short loop. Kairi and Lee are back to back as Saix and Xion circle them. They both pounce and Kairi pushes Xion out of view, while Lee throws his Keyblade at Saix in a strike rate attack. Saix and Lee parry each other a couple of times before Kairi comes back into view, blocking Xion. She then chases her off screen again. Lee attacks, throwing his Keyblade before both parties lock blades. They break away after a second before the battle loops. The opening cutscene shows Xion attacking Kairi. Xion hits Kairi away and charges in again, but Lee blocks her path. They lock blades before Lee pushes her back. Saix can be seen running up and attacking before he charges up. Lee flips back before Sora joins them in battle. Lee parries an attack from Xion, and the battle begins. Xion has 3 attacks if you're counting the Berserk charge as a single attack. At the start of the battle, Xion will go into this Berserk mode, changing her Keyblade out for a Claymore. Xion will use 3 different attacks in this mode. She will dash around, striking the ground, and push out multiple shockwaves. She's actually floating just above the ground, and when she strikes at the ground, she does a full spin. The second attack is a dash forward that sends out 2 shockwaves on either side of her. The last attack is a ground pound where Xion strikes the ground with the spikes of the Claymore, sending out a giant shockwave with a pillar of fire in the middle. All these attacks can be blocked, or you can just glide in the air to evade the attacks. If you take a lot of damage, Xion will just stop after a certain amount of time and will lose her aura and revert back to her Keyblade. If you dodge enough attacks though, Xion will float into the air reverting to her Keyblade, but keeping the aura. After a second, she will raise her Keyblade and unleash a flurry of attacks before throwing Sora into the air with an uppercut. As Sora flies into the air, she teleports above him and slices down with her Claymore, sending him flying back down to the ground. If you successfully guard against her initial attacks, she will transition into a normal combo. The first hit of the attack has incredible range, and she will move forward throughout the rest of her attack to catch up to you. This Berserk attack can also be triggered if you do too much damage to her. The next attack Xion will use is a 3-hit combo. This starts with a thrust forward followed by an overhead slash and ending with a dash forward while she slashes out with her Keyblade. Some of these attacks are extremely similar to Sora's combat, especially the first thrust. If you block this, Xion will follow up with either a second combo or a strike rate to break your guard. Xion can also use strike rate to attack. Blocking this will break your guard. After a bit, Xion will charge up and go into another berserk charge. Knocking Xion back shows her flipping back and landing lightly. She doesn't even need to catch herself with a hand or anything. When Saix's berserk meter fills, Xion will run to a certain position and slouch, either in despair or exhaustion. Xion does not have any unique quotes, staying silent throughout the battle. The last thing I'll note here is that you can actually see Xion Norted during this fight. When Saix goes berserk, there is a cutscene before his second phase. Saix hits Sora and Kairi away, and Lee steps in to save them. Saix easily knocks him to his knees and raises his claymore above his head. Xemnas then appears, reminiscing about how Lee would deal with the traitors in the old organization. He asks if he has any final words, to which Lee responds that Xemnas was never his superior. Xemnas refers to him as a rogue pawn that was knocked early from the board, which doesn't really make sense. In Kingdom Hearts 2, Axel did desert the organization, but has been in the game all the way up until this point. It could be though that Xemnas is just referring to his place in the organization. Anyways, Lee responds to Xemnas' statement that he was useless and will be forgotten by saying that he is popular and has loads of people rooting for him. He tells him that nobody acts as Axel. He asked Kairi earlier to call him Axel to avoid confusion, so I guess he kept calling himself that even here. Lee attacks Xemnas, who easily catches the Keyblade in his hand and destroys it. Dark thorns wrap around it before Xemnas shoots a thin line forward, causing Lee's Keyblade to disappear in flames. Xemnas then uses his iconic laser dome as Saix stands by and watches. Before Xemnas can execute him though, Xion grabs his blade. We learn that only the hearts are needed and not the souls of the Guardians of Light. I guess they would have captured his heart after defeating him. Xion takes Xemnas' place, and we can actually see the Keyblade shaking before Sora steps in to stop her. Lee still doesn't remember at this point, though Xion seems to be starting to remember. Xion attacks Sora as he begs her to stop. Roxas, through Sora, calls out Xion's name, which is the last push to help the real Xion return. Xemnas kicks her away, calling her a useless puppet. As she falls, her hood comes off, and Lee fully remembers who she is. Lee tries to stop Xemnas, who shrugs him off, telling him he will have to wait his turn. He uses the word Alceron, which is just a fancy word for someone who is of little importance, usually in the context of competition. We see Roxas' heart fly out of Sora, and a beam of light flies down just in time to save Xion. In the journal, it states that the connection between Xion and Axel is what brings back Roxas, and calls him back into the world. Roxas explains that he returned the same way as the others. Through the use of a replica vessel provided by Ansem the Wise and Zexion, he was brought back. He also makes the statement that it seems like Xemnas is not as good at winning over people's hearts as he thinks. This is probably hinting to both Vex and Endemix, who played a part in helping him return. There was one last thing Roxas needed to return, which was the connection Sora made with Xion. Xemnas decides that he should retreat, stealing Kairi away. He makes a comment about how there are lights to replace her, just as there are darknesses to replenish their ranks. He grabs Kairi by the wrist, which seems to be a common theme to subdue a Keyblade wielder. When Sora was tied up in Kingdom Hearts 2, he was unable to get free or summon his Keyblade. Same with Mickey when he was in the Realm of Darkness. This was how Dark Aqua could take Mickey's Keyblade without him dematerializing it. Lee at the end of Dream Drop Distance also makes a note of how summoning your Keyblade must have something to do with the flick of the wrist. Xemnas disappears, and Xion and Roxas take the place of Kairi and Lee. One last thing I want to note is that we see both Roxas and Ventus visibly return, but for Xion it seems much more subtle. We do know that she was Norted during the battle, but when she is kicked aside, she's revealed to be back to normal. Why wouldn't they show her returning though? Anyways, that's enough talk about this cutscene. Let's look at your two allies in this first phase of the fight. Kairi has a ground combo, a kind of air attack, and a pearl attack. The ground combo starts with an upper slash before she dives to the ground and does a low attack. She catches herself and runs back before she turns and runs to the enemy, hitting them once before ending with another upper slash. This hits the enemy into the air, and Kairi will usually follow this up with a spinning air slash. She can also use this on the ground. The last attack is her pearl projectile attack. When she shoots it, it looks like a flower is spawned behind it. Lee has a ground combo, a fire attack with his Keyblade, and an attack with fire. The first attack of the combo is a low slash that ends with Lee facing backwards. He then throws his Keyblade forward twice, rising into the air to catch the second throw and ending with a downward slash. He will usually follow up this attack by throwing his Keyblade covered in flames at the enemy. 3 flames spawn around the Keyblade and spin with it. It spins up and back to Lee before he catches it. His fire attack shows Lee using the handle of his Keyblade and separating it into 2 circles of flames. He then throws these at the enemies. When he grabs them, it changes back to his Keyblade. During the scripted segment, at the end of the first battle, Lee will dash up to Saix and summon these flame circles, throwing them again and again at Saix. Most of the time, he's only using one hand to catch and throw the circles one after the other. At the end of the combo, he catches both of the circles and throws them before jumping into the air and catching them. It changes back to the Keyblade and he slams downwards. The hit causes a flame pillar to spawn. In one of the Remind trailers, we actually see Lee summon his Chakrams, so it's interesting that those aren't present here during this fight. Okay, let's talk about the second enemy, Saix. Saix has an insane moveset. In his first phase, he will use 5 different attacks, and in his second phase, he will use 5 more attacks alongside a couple of the attacks he used during the first phase. During the start of the battle, Saix will rise into the air as his claymore spins up behind him. His Berserk bar automatically fills as dark thorns are pushed out around him, and an aura surrounds him and his weapon. Saix will either jump into the air to throw his claymore at you, or start running around striking the ground to create shockwaves. For the throwing attack, Saix will spin and jump into the air, holding his claymore back behind his head and throwing it at Sora. This homes in on him and explodes on contact. If it hits Sora or if it is guarded, it will explode, and blue flames as well as dark thorns will snake into the air. If you dodge it and it hits the ground, a giant shockwave will be created from the explosion. The next attack shows Saix running while he slashes at the ground, creating shockwaves. Saix spins in the air while he attacks. He will attack 6 times before he throws his claymore. Just like the previous attack, getting hit or blocking it will cause an explosion with flames and dark thorns appearing, while dodging it will cause an explosion and a shockwave if it hits the ground. This was an attack in Kingdom Hearts 2 actually. None of the claymores though are left behind in Kingdom Hearts 3 for you to use against Saix. Another attack from Kingdom Hearts 2 is this 3-hit attack. Saix does an overhead attack, slamming his weapon into the ground, shooting out 2 shockwaves. He spins in the air before slamming his claymore down again, shooting out 2 more shockwaves. These shoot out more diagonally than the last ones. Saix then jumps back and throws his weapon into the ground, shooting out 3 shockwaves. The next attack is a 2-hit attack with Saix dashing forward. He slashes up at the end of the dash and spins, slashing out again. The first hit you can block, but the second will break your guard. This is another attack that was in Kingdom Hearts 2, as is the next attack. Saix slices upwards quickly before slashing horizontally and ending with an overhead slash. All of this can be blocked, and if you miss the first block, you have just enough time to get a guard up before the last 2 hits. And that is it for Saix's first phase. After his Berserk bar fills up, he will run towards the middle of the area and rise into the air. You can see electricity arcing around him while he is charging up. Dark thorns circle around him, and his claymore spins behind him. A ring and a blue explosion push out as Sora is pushed back. You can see blue flames from Saix as the screen fades to black. You can actually dodge through this with the right timing. After the scripted scene, every time he charges up, 4 spinning claymores will appear around him. During the second phase, Saix will still throw his claymore at you and do his 3-hit attack with the shockwaves. There's also an upgraded version of this 3-hit attack. Saix will slam his claymore down to the ground, using 2 claymores on either side of him to strike the ground as well. This shoots forward 3 shockwaves. He then disappears and does it again, before teleporting one more time and rising into the air. 8 claymores appear around him, and Saix thrusts his own weapon into the ground. The other weapons follow, and shockwaves shoot out when they hit the ground. The next attack is a ground slam. This usually happens at the start of the second battle. Saix simply jumps into the air and slams his claymore down, causing a shockwave to push out. This is a move copied by Xion, as is this dash attack and this shockwave attack. This dashing attack seems to keep going until someone hits him out of it. All 3 of these attacks are seen in the Kingdom Hearts 2 fight and are part of the Berserk Charge Desperation move. The last attack shows Saix jumping into the air and throwing the 4 claymores around himself into the ground. He then slams his weapon into the ground, causing the claymores to all explode. This has a ton of range, though for some reason the outer edges of the shockwave didn't hurt me here. All of these attacks in the second phase are still blockable actually. During all of these insane attacks in his second phase, Saix's Berserk bar will be depleting, and any attacks done to him will reduce it faster. When both bars are gone, he'll be stunned. His yellow bar will start to fill during this, and when it fills, he will be back in his first phase. Attacks done to him during this phase will make the blue bar fill faster. When that fills, he will again go into his second phase. Saix has 2 different staggers in this fight. During his first phase, he will flip a couple of times in the air before landing in a crouched position. While in his second phase, sometimes he will fly straight up and land on his back before bouncing and flipping back up. Saix also has a couple unique quotes: when you die, restart the battle, or defeat him.
Back to dust!
The moon exhilarates me. Still haven't achieved our goal.
The last thing I want to point out in this fight is that Lee can be seen on the outside of the battle during the second part of this fight. Now let's look at your allies during the second part: Roxas and Xion. Roxas has 3 attacks: a combo, a single attack, and a projectile attack. The combo is actually his combo from Kingdom Hearts 2. The last hit shows his Keyblades glowing before he attacks. The light from this last hit has yellow light from the Oathkeeper and purple light from Oblivion. The single attack shows Roxas dashing forward with rays of light and slashing out with both Keyblades. The projectile attack shows Roxas spinning both Keyblades in front of himself and shooting out 2 sparring lights at Saix. Just like the other attacks, these are colored purple and yellow. We see here that Roxas uses a reversal command. I want to say in some of the Japanese press material, we have seen Roxas have the reversal command above his command menu. Xion has 2 attacks. One is a cast of Holy and the other is a combo. The combo shows her doing an overhead slash before she does a thrust and ends with a spinning slash. This has the same light effect as the speed slash attack that Sora uses. Xion's other attack shows her casting Holy, which calls down multiple pillars of light. When Saix is defeated, he holds himself up with his weapon before it disappears, causing him to fall to his knees. Saix wonders why Lee is so sad, mentioning that he thought that he had outgrown the marks under his eyes. Lee tells him to cut the act, telling Saix that he thought that everything he had done was all for her. We know from the secret reports that they are talking about Subject X. The reason why both Lee and Aiza ended up studying under Ansem the Wise was to find out what had happened to this girl after she had mysteriously disappeared. This is how they got sucked into the organization. Saix accuses Lee of leaving both Subject X and Saix in the dust for Xion and Roxas. This caused Saix to lose his sense of purpose. Saix knew that Lee would never forget him, but he was jealous of the friendship Lee had made with Roxas and Xion. Lee says farewell, calling him Aiza before he disappears. Lee tells Sora to go after Kairi before the Sea Salt trio finally reunites in one of the most touching scenes of the game.
Guess I should have brought some ice cream.
Why do you fight?
Hey you guys, today's video kicks off my data battle breakdown series. I appreciate the huge response I had when I asked for any insights you all had. I've looked through all of your suggestions and I've tried to pick out the ones that I didn't know anything about, so if I do note something or if I show something on screen, I will credit someone who came up with that. So if I didn't credit you, if I didn't use your information, it's probably because I already knew about it or I found it while I was already doing the script. But again, a huge thank you to everyone who replied and tried to help out with this breakdown. I really appreciate it. Anyways, Xion is a really intense battle, but pretty predictable. She has a cycle that she will mostly follow in both of her phases. The first phase has 5 attacks. The first one has her dashing forward before using a strike raid attack. She then dashes towards Sora to do a 2-hit attack before doing another strike raid. After yet another dash, Xion will do the same 2-hit attack but end with one final strike. This is actually the same attack from the Keyblade graveyard. After the third strike, you can counter to create an opening. After this combo, Xion will follow up with 3 strike raids, which is also what she could do in her previous fight. If you block these, the third one will break your guard. Getting hit or guarding against one of Xion's strike raids will trigger her next strike raid more quickly, so if you need a breather, dodge through the attacks to slow her down. After the third strike raid attack, Xion will be open. Even if you are hit by her attack, you still have enough time to air step over to her to attack, though guarding and wrist dodging to her is probably the best option. The next attack is a beam attack. Xion will dash around, spawning 5 pillars of light that fly towards you. This is a good time to talk about Xion's dash, as well as these pillars of light. Rather than Roxas' light dash where he zips forward, Xion's dash is more of an arcing jump around the arena. She appears and disappears in a flash of yellow light, and you can actually see a Keyblade dematerializing during the first dash. The beams of light appear from a flash of red light, shooting downwards before moving towards Sora. A symbol appears above this beam which bears a resemblance to the mask Xion wears in her final form armor. I didn't actually think about this, but a user by the name of Night Dazer Nunya pointed out that these pillars are actually from Xion's final limit part of Event Horizon. Taking damage from these beams will decrease Sora's overall health. It is decreased in small increments, though if you have lost HP, your health bar will decrease all the way to wherever your health is. Anyways, back to the attack. Xion is actually open after the last attack. The next attack is a mix of physical attacks and light beams. Xion will do a 2-hit attack before dashing around to send 2 sets of beams at you. You can actually see a strike effect during the dashes, possibly showing that Xion is spawning them since the previous beam attack actually showed her stopping to spawn each beam. The strike effect does not seem to damage Sora. This will loop once before Xion moves on to the next attack. The next attack is another mix of physical attacks and beams. Xion will throw her Keyblade at you 3 times. In between her throws, Xion will dash around and send beams at you. After the first throw, she will spawn a single beam. After the second, she will spawn 2 beams and also dash an extra time before throwing her last Keyblade at you. This will break your guard and you can wrist dodge to her to deal some damage. Bosch Rivers pointed out that you can use magic to stun Xion out of her third strike raid before she throws it. The last attack in the first phase is a dash that spawns 4 beams. Xion will do this twice before restarting the cycle. This is actually pretty similar to the dash she does with the Claymore copy in the Keyblade graveyard. After taking a certain amount of damage, Xion will appear and do a flurry of attacks, another attack she did in the Keyblade graveyard. This may actually be a nod to her limit break from 358 over 2 days. Anyways, this ends with her striking Sora or slamming him back towards the ground. This last attack will stun you if it connects. In the Keyblade graveyard, she would actually launch you into the air and then hit you back down with a Claymore, though in this data battle, she uses her Keyblade the whole time. Xion will then continue through her attacks until doing the double dash that spawns the 4 beams. After this, Xion will cloak herself in light and do a kind of mini ultimate attack. The first attack is a ground slam spawning a golden pillar of light. A shockwave pushes out and 4 smaller pillars appear with light spiraling up them. Lightning will arc down as these pillars disappear. 8 light beams will also appear on the outside of this and shoot outwards. Xion will do this 5 times with the first and last ones homing in on you. If you counterattack on the last hit, you can deal some damage. The next attack is Xion's Flurry attack, though instead of teleporting and doing the 1-2 hit that leaves you stunned, Xion will dash forward, spawning 4 beams of light, and dash towards you to do a single strike. She'll then teleport again, spawning an additional 4 beams before summoning golden pillars of light. You can see Xion staying back this time, though, to spawn this cast of Holy. Instead of a giant beam in the center, a couple smaller beams will all strike down in the center. The outer ring of pillars will spawn first before the center pillars spawn. These cannot be blocked, so either dodge or move out of the way. There will be 3 casts of this before Xion will do the Flurry and beam attacks again. The attack then loops and Xion will do the ground slam attack. Xion will then do a 1-2 hit before losing her armor and going back to her general attacks. Countering her attacks and breaking through her armor will give you an opening. Now let's look at the second phase. Xion's second phase is also a cycle. The first attack starts with a 2-hit attack as sets of 2 beams are spawned. Xion dashes closer and does a strong slice upwards. This creates a wall of beams in front of Xion that fly forward. After this strike, you can counter to create an opening. This is followed by Xion dashing at you twice to deliver a strong slice downwards. Xion then dashes back and throws her Keyblade at you. Instead of homing in on you though, the Keyblade will fly forward a short distance before stopping and spawning beams around itself. These push outwards in different directions, and you can see the Keyblade spinning as a current of air pushes outwards with the beams. The second and third strike rates are close enough for you to block, though the third strike rate is different. This will break your guard like previous times, but 4 beams will spawn as soon as Xion throws the Keyblade and will move in towards you to hit you as soon as your guard breaks. Like previous strike rates, you can wrist dodge to attack Xion. This is also a good way to dodge the beams. The rest of the cycle is attacks in the first phase. These are the strike rate beam combo attack and the double dash attack that spawns 4 beams. Xion can also still trigger her flurry of attacks as well as her light armor attack. The last attack in Xion's arsenal is her ultimate attack. Xion travels outside of the arena and raises her Keyblade above her head. Light whites out the screen and a sun shines down through some clouds, changing the lighting of the area. It's actually pretty interesting how most ultimate attacks darken the screen, but Xion's lightens it. Anyways, a wave of light will gather around you before the screen whites out. Pillars of light shoot upwards from the center and travel out to the edges of the arena in thin lines. Xion appears in the center and attacks you with a 3-hit combo. Another wave of light is drawn towards the center before more pillars shoot up. Xion appears again with another 3-hit combo. After this, beams of light circle around Sora, following him and trapping him in a small area. After a bit, the beams spread outwards and stop spinning before 3 golden pillars come down around Sora. These disappear and a single pillar comes down on Sora as the light beams on the outside move in towards Sora. Xion then appears above Sora to slam him down towards the ground. He then teleports and thrusts towards him with a 3-hit combo as beams of light shoot forward on either side of her. Beams of light then appear around the outside of the arena and fly towards the center. After they pass through the center, the beams will arc out in wavy patterns before circling back to the center again. After this, they'll shoot out of the arena. During this, Xion will do her dash attack that spawns 4 beams. After this, Xion will go back through her attacks, starting with the circling beams and holy attack. Then she will do her 3-hit combo before the beams circle the arena. This attack will actually happen 3 times. Xion will also appear to strike you after the second time this arena beam attack happens. After the third time, light will gather in the center and beams of light will shoot up. Xion will appear in the middle and do a strong strike that is unblockable. This throws Sora up into the air if you get hit by it. If you dodge it, you can actually see dark thorns shooting up. This last strike looks to be this attack from the Keyblade graveyard. If you deplete Xion's armor, the DM will end and Xion will be open. There are 2 different battle quotes that trigger at the start of this ultimate attack. A user by the name of Vanitas Gaming pointed out that one of the quotes is similar to her quote during the final battle of 358 over 2 days.
Ready, Sora? Get ready, Roxas! Here we go!
He also pointed out that the quotes for winning and losing seem to be nods to days as well.
You're going where I belong. I belong with Sora. This is how it's supposed to be. It was my choice to go away now. I've decided that I have to go back to where I belong.
Before I end the video, I do want to point out just a couple things that I saw that were interesting, but I didn't really know where to put them. Just like in the Keyblade graveyard, Xion's eyes are yellow here. It's not a huge deal, but I did want to point out that Xion's recovery is really smooth. Vanitas Gaming pointed out that the opening of the ultimate attack looks really similar to the fight with Roxas in Final Form Xion. Both the blue and golden beams are also seen here. Saix found out that if you hit Xion's revenge value in the air, Xion will strike at you before moving on with her cycle. He also found out that the air left over after arrow casts will stop her dashes. Xion's AI is incredibly smart. If you hit one of her openings, the next cycle that comes around, she will actually skip that attack. So say you punish the strike rate attack, the next go around she's going to skip over that attack entirely. And I think that is it for Xion's data battle. I'm putting it off for ages. I had just finished Data Riku, and that was an insane fight. I thought from Terranort onward it would be smooth sailing, but I forgot Saix, that berserk bastard. I tried to hide from him. I did. I would shut my eyes and boom, he'd be there, staring at me. I couldn't get away. So finally, hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Data Saix. Data Saix starts the battle the same way every time. He'll slowly rise into the air as his claymore spins behind him. His berserk bar starts out fully charged, which is why he opens by powering up. Dark thorns burst out and his claymore transforms to have spikes on the tips of it. If you time it right, you can dodge through this burst that pushes you back. I suggest not using ice to try to slide up to him because that is not a good idea. In my experience, Saix follows the same flow of attacks. During his berserk phase, a second blue bar will fill up, which will trigger his stronger berserk form. During this build-up though, he will have a unique set of attacks he cycles through. It may feel like a barrage of random attacks, but there are actually only 3 or 4 attacks that are cycled around. Let's start with the first one. The first attack is his 3-hit combo from KH2. There are actually a lot of attacks that stem from previous games, so rather than break up the flow of the video to point out what attacks connect to what, like I am now, I'll just have a window appearing showing off the similar attack. Anyways, the attack shows him slicing up once before dashing forward to break your guard. Once that is broken, he will follow up with a strong downward slice that sends you flying. If you wrist dodge, you can create an opening. While the second and third attacks will break your guard, trying to create an opening from the third hit usually does not work since Saix is already moving on to the next attack. The next attack has Saix dashing towards you with a swiping attack before spinning 3 times, slashing at you as he spins. At the end, he will move far away to recover before continuing on to the next attack. If you counterattack the spins, you'll create an opening. Next, Saix will jump high into the air before striking the ground, sending out 4 shockwaves before striking the ground again to send out another 3 shockwaves. The first set will shoot out in diagonal directions away from Sora, while the second set will have 1 shockwave going straight towards you. These cannot be blocked, though you can dodge the claymore strikes. Saix will then follow this up with his 3-hit combo we saw earlier. This has the same openings. Saix will then follow up with another air combo before doing a 3 shockwave attack. The first 2 shockwaves are the same as the previous shockwave attack, but the last part of this is new. Saix throws his claymore into the ground, shooting out both sets of shockwaves at once. Saix will be open as he falls, so air step through the shockwaves to deal some damage. The next attack in the cycle is another new one and has Saix spinning before jumping into the air, flinging his claymore at you, which is unblockable. Getting hit by this will stun Sora. Saix will be open as he falls back down to the ground. Saix will then do an air combo followed by another claymore throw and ending with a 3 shockwave attack. This cycle does seem to change though as you hit his openings, sometimes causing Saix to skip over an attack or 2 in his arsenal or just restart his cycle entirely. And that is all of his attacks in this berserk phase, at least for the first phase of this fight. Some of Saix's attacks do change when his health gets lower, but we'll cover that later. If you hit his revenge value during this first berserk phase, Saix will hold his claymore downwards and move towards you, flipping 3 times and slashing at you before doing a spinning slash and ending with a wide strike. After the second bar fills, Saix will be in his second berserk phase. He rises into the air just like last time with his claymore spinning behind him before a bigger shockwave is pushed out. You can still dodge this with a well-timed dodge, and you can also guard against it. 4 claymores appear around Saix that will constantly circle around him in this phase. This phase, like the previous one, will follow a certain cycle of attacks. The first attack has Saix throwing down 7 claymores that explode as Saix slams it on top of you. This is an unblockable attack, so dodge to avoid damage. Saix will do this attack a number of times throughout the cycle, but he only seems to be open after his 4 dash attacks. For his next attack, Saix will teleport and dash towards Sora to do an uppercut followed by a dash. This sends out 3 sets of shockwaves. Next up is a shockwave attack. Saix will slam his claymore into the ground, while 2 of the circling claymores will sink into the ground. Each claymore shoots forward 2 shockwaves that all cross each other's paths. Saix will teleport forward and do another slam using the remaining 2 claymores. This can be blocked, which negates the shockwave from that claymore, but also breaks your guard. Saix ends the attack by rising into the air with 7 claymores surrounding him. He slams down, shooting shockwaves out in all directions. Wrist dodging when your guard is broken will create an opening, stopping Saix from doing this last slam attack. You can also wait for Saix to do this attack, and then air step to him to deal some damage. Saix will then throw his claymore at you with the 4 circling claymores following close behind. If any of these hit Sora, he'll be stunned. If these hit the ground, a shockwave will push out. Saix will be open after this attack, though you'll have to dodge the first claymore, hit Saix, and then dodge the remaining claymores before continuing your attack. Saix will then follow this up by doing the 2 teleporting shockwave attacks and the ground pound before doing his uppercut attack. He'll then do another ground pound before teleporting and dashing around you 4 times, shooting out 3 sets of shockwaves with each dash. Blocking the second dash and countering will knock Saix out of his third dash and create an opening. Saix will then do 1 more ground slam attack before charging up his berserk bar. This cycle seems to change up depending on the openings that you hit. Like at one point I hit Saix during his first claymore throw in the cycle, and he skipped all the way to the end of the cycle. I haven't really found like a rhyme or reason to it, but it does definitely change when you hit his openings. Anyways, after going through this cycle twice, Saix will do his ultimate attack. During Saix's ultimate attack, he'll move quickly around the arena, doing spinning slashes, creating shockwaves around himself. His extra claymores will slam down as well, creating more shockwaves. Every once in a while, Saix will jump up and slam his claymore into the ground, shooting out 4 shockwaves, or dash, shooting out shockwaves. Over time, his extra claymores will spin and disappear before reappearing flying towards Sora. After he has thrown all 4 claymores, he will dash around a bit before stopping. If both of his bars have depleted, he will be in a daze. He'll be dazed until he charges his yellow bar back up. When Saix's health gets to a certain point, he will shift into his second phase. Some of his attacks change. For his 3-hit combo in his normal Berserk mode, he will dash at you with a strike first before following up with a normal 3-hit combo. Since he is close to you, countering after the initial dash will leave him open to a counterattack. For his dashing spin attack, Saix will do 2 dashes instead of 1 before doing his spinning attacks. Saix can also dash you before doing his claymore throw as well. Another thing Saix can do is automatically start his ultimate move right after charging up his blue bar. During this, more claymores will be thrown out to damage you. After his ground pound while he's in his second Berserk mode, he will dash at you shooting out shockwaves. He will then follow his cycle that he did before up until his claymore throw. After that, he will change his attacks. He'll slam down his claymore doing a shockwave before dashing to do an uppercut. He'll then do another claymore smash attack before his ground pound attack. He'll follow this up with 4 dash attacks before slamming his claymore on the ground, shooting out shockwaves, and dashing again twice. He'll do 1 more ground pound attack before charging up again. It is much harder to get him to empty out his Berserk bar fully while in the second phase, since he gets through his cycle of attacks more quickly, which causes him to charge up more often. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. Hey you guys, today we're looking at the triple Xehanort fight at the end of the Keyblade Graveyard. The Nort Court was probably one of my favorite fights because you were fighting some of the previous game's final bosses all at the same time. It was chaotic and exciting, and the set piece you fought on was so epic. Anyways, let's start off by looking at the area before the battle. In all of the fights taking place in the Keyblade Graveyard, ruins appeared showing the various weapons of the original Organization 13, though one set of ruins seemed to have ruins of Scala and Caelum. Some of these can be seen on the wall up to the battle against the Nords, though instead of being horizontal, everything is flipped to be vertical. This symbol here is unique and gives me vibes of a crystal, and this one makes me think of an eye. This symbol is also on the floor of the arena, but I really am not sure what this could be. If you guys have ideas, let me know down below. As Sora meets up with the King and Riku, Ansem, young Xehanort, and Xemnas show up before Xehanort is revealed to be standing on a spire above the arena. Sora confronts Xemnas since the last time he had seen him, he was capturing Kairi. Xehanort calls Sora boy instead of his name, which is something he also did with both Terra and Vanitas in Birth by Sleep. I don't really think there's any significance to that, but it is nice to see the consistency. It's also really interesting to see Ansem use the same wordage when talking to Riku. Anyways, we then learn that there have been 9 clashes, which are the fights we just did in the Keyblade Graveyard. To me, this confirms that Xion was one of the clashes. She did end up regaining herself and memories and changing over to the side of the Guardians of Light, but not before clashing with Kairi and Lee. 4 are still needed though. It's really interesting that these no-name Keyblades, or some call them Gazing Eye Keyblades, respond. All of keychains meaning these are actual Keyblades. Sora always planned to stop fighting once he reached Xehanort, but Xehanort has planned for that by capturing Kairi. Even if the 3 die here now, there will still be 3 keys created and more Guardians of Light who are able to face Xehanort to create the last one. The fight then commences with a 3-on-3 match. The opening of this fight is a little hectic as all 3 of the versions of Xehanort are kind of attacking whoever is close to them. This only lasts for a short while though before all 3 flip backwards and disappear. The old Xehanort summons a Keyblade wave to capture Riku and Mickey. The arena changes with wind blocking the edges of the arena as waves of Keyblades slam down. These won't actually hit you right now, and the 3 Xehanorts will appear to attack you. This whole section can be seen as the ultimate attack of the fight since it happens periodically throughout the fight, so I'll go over the different variations of it now. When all 3 are alive, young Xehanort will do his time stop attack as Xemnas spins towards you. If you get hit by Xemnas' opening attack, Sora will be thrown to the ground where Xemnas appears to do a crossing slash attack. This whips an X into the ground. Ansem then appears to shoot out a red shockwave and multiple tendrils of darkness, which may be an attack that looks familiar. After this, multiple Keyblade waves will fly towards you. After the ultimate attack is over, the Nort Court will appear to follow up with an attack. Xemnas will fly around summoning orbs of energy to shoot at you from all sides. Ansem will spawn mines all around you, and young Xehanort will do his time stop attack, which will throw you towards the mines. When there are just 2 enemies and a single enemy, the attacks will change both at the beginning and the end. For young Xehanort, at the start of the ultimate attack, he will summon multiple casts of ice to shoot at you when there are 2 enemies, and when he is the only one left, he will link his ice attack with his combo, which breaks your guard right when the ice reaches you. He'll then follow this up with his time stop attack. At the end of the ultimate attack, he will always use his time stop attack. For Ansem, he will do his Tendrils of Darkness attack to open when there are 3 enemies. When there are only 2 enemies left, he will summon Orbs of Darkness that shoot beams of energy at Sora before summoning a Pool of Darkness that spawns this unblockable claw attack. When Ansem is by himself, he will spawn the orbs again, though instead of the Pool of Darkness, he will draw you in and do his Tendrils of Darkness attack. At the end of the ultimate attack, Ansem will spawn mines around you if there are 3 enemies alive. He will also spawn mines when there are just 2 enemies, though he will also create a Pool of Darkness to attack you with claws. When he is by himself, he will use the Tendrils of Darkness attack. Xemnas will open with the Spinning Strike attack that sends you down to the ground when all 3 enemies are there, though blocking or dodging the first hit will cancel his attack. When he is the last enemy alive, he will fly in a huge circle around you, spawning a ton of energy orbs before following it up with a double kick attack and a rising slash attack. He will then end with the spinning attack. At the end of the ultimate attack, Xemnas will spawn the energy orbs when there are 3 enemies alive, but will do a spinning slash attack when there are only 1 or 2 enemies left. Like I said, this fight is so hectic. Now let's get to the actual fight. The person who will focus on you will always be the one with the pink aura. This goes in a cycle of the enemy attacking you for a bit before the screen darkens and there's a transition attack to the next enemy. After this transition attack, someone else will have the aura and will focus their attacks on you. These transition attacks follow a set cycle depending on who will have the aura next. The one who will be up next in the cycle will always attack last, and the other 2 enemies will attack together. There are a number of different unique team attacks. Young Xehanort and Xemnas will always link up with Xemnas' energy orbs and Young Xehanort's whip capture attack. Young Xehanort and Ansem's team attack is Ansem using the Pool of Darkness attack, while Young Xehanort shoots Cast of Blizzard at you. Ansem and Xemnas' team attack has Ansem spawning mines all around you as Xemnas spawns energy shots. When an enemy is defeated, there's a different team attack for the characters. When it is just Young Xehanort and Ansem, Young Xehanort will do the first 3 hits of his combo attack twice, while Ansem does his charge attack. Their other attack has Ansem doing his beam attack, with Young Xehanort doing his time stop attack. When Xemnas and Ansem team up, Xemnas will do 2 kicks in his rising attack, while Ansem charges. If Ansem opens the attack, he will do his mines and Pool of Darkness combo before Xemnas does his spinning attack. When Xemnas and Young Xehanort team up, Young Xehanort will do 3 hits of his combo twice, while Xemnas does his spinning slash attack. They can also have Xemnas doing his combo, while Young Xehanort does his time stop attack. Now with all of that out of the way, let's actually look at the attacks that each of these characters use. Let's look at Young Xehanort first. Some of Young Xehanort's attacks are nods to his fight from Dreamed Up Distance. I'll try to have a similar attack on screen while I'm showing these attacks. Young Xehanort's first attack is a combo attack. He'll do 3 whip attacks before flipping his Keyblade to slash at you. The whip's second hit will throw you to the ground if you are in the air, and the third hit will bring you close to Young Xehanort so he can hit you with his Keyblade. Dodging or blocking the third hit will stop the attack, though if you block on the ground, it will break it and set you up for a wrist dodge attack. If you are close to Young Xehanort with his attack, he will open with a quick slash before doing the rest of his combo. Another attack is this Ice Barrage. Young Xehanort will send these flying towards you, though the movement will change depending on your distance from him. If you are far away from Young Xehanort, the ice will simply arc out towards you. If you are close though, the Ice Barrage will fly backwards before converging at the same point and flying at you. The time stop attack is pretty simple, with Young Xehanort teleporting close to you to whip you. This will freeze you for a second before a flurry of slashes damage you and throw you backwards. A time magic circle appears on the ground during this attack. The last attack is a whip capture that ties you down to a small area. Young Xehanort sinks his Keyblade into the ground, changing it into a whip. A small pool of darkness appears near Sora and the whip flies towards him. This will limit how far Sora can move and will explode after a couple seconds. You can actually block the opening of this attack to keep him from being captured. When you defeat him, Young Xehanort falls to the ground, laughing at Sora's fate. Even though Young Xehanort was defeated, he will still go back to his time, but because of Sora's misuse of the power of waking, his time will be up soon. With what we know now from your mind, I really wonder if Young Xehanort was actually talking to the Sora inside of Sora's heart. That sounds so weird. But the future Sora that was using the power of waking to go back and find Kairi. Obviously we can't know for sure, but that's kind of my headcanon for right now. Anyways, let's look at Ansem next. The first attack we'll look at is the Mine attack. If you are close to him, he will teleport away and spawn 4 or 5 mines around him, though staying away will usually have him teleporting closer to you to spawn these. He can then follow this up with either the orbs that shoot beams at you or the Pool of Darkness attack. The orb attack shows Ansem spawning 6 orbs of darkness around you, shooting 2 at a time. Ansem will also use this against your party members, but only 3 will spawn. There will also more spawn during the ultimate attack. The Pool of Darkness attack starts with 2 orbs circling around Ansem before meeting below him with a flash of light that spawns his Pool of Darkness and homes in on Sora. After a second, these claws will shoot out of the pool to damage Sora. This cannot be blocked. Ansem's next attack is a callback to his Kingdom Hearts 1 fight. Orbs appear above him and shoot down beams into the ground. These spin around above him as Ansem flies forward. Ansem's last attack is this charge-up attack that pulls you and your party members in. After a bit, Ansem will unleash a Red Ring as well as Tendrils of Darkness. This is strikingly similar to Sora's Rage Form combo finisher when he is in the final level of it. Before we look at Ansem's death cutscene, I want to make a note that the Dark Riku replica and Ansem share 2 attacks, the Mind attack and the Pool of Darkness attack. I love this little nod as it links the bond between the two since Kingdom Hearts 1. Well, not the replica and Ansem, but Riku and Ansem. The Claw attack, though, seems to stem from the anti-Black Coat. This is believed to be from Riku's Darkness since they both share similar attacks, so again it is cool to see the links with Riku, Ansem, and Darkness. As Ansem is defeated, Riku steps forward to confront him and finally close this chapter of his life. It's interesting that Ansem notes that Riku's strength was always vaster than Darkness. He then goes on to say that he wanted to defy his fate, but when the others betrayed them, he didn't care anymore. This is in reference to the nobodies who came to the aid of the Twilight Gang. Back at this point, Ansem discovered that there were some who were going to betray the organization, but instead of following them, he just resigned himself to his fate. Ansem then tells Sora that it is time to move on. There is more to seek. I believe this is Ansem realizing that there is more to seek than just being a seeker of darkness. Now let's look at Xemnas. Most of Xemnas' attacks are nods to his final form attacks in Kingdom Hearts 2. Xemnas' first attack is a combo attack that changes depending on your distance to him. If you are far away, Xemnas will dash at you with a thrusting attack before twisting and spawning his other blade to do a quick slash. He will then follow this up with a high kick and a low kick before spawning both of his blades and doing a crossing slash. If Xemnas is close to you, he will do the high and low kick first before doing 2 slashes and ending with the crossing slash. When he is by himself, he will change the ending of this attack. If he is far away, he will skip the crossing slash at the end and do 2 quick slashes before doing the spinning rising attack and ending with a kick. If he is close to you, he will do his thrusting and quick slash attack at the end before doing the rising slash and kick. His next attack shows him spawning 4 orbs that fly towards you and explode. You can block these. Another attack Xemnas will do shows him circling above you, spawning the red orbs that shoot a single laser beam at you. Xemnas' last attack is a spinning slash attack that throws you down to the ground, leaving you open to this crossing slash attack. Like I said before, you can dodge or block the first part of the attack to negate the last part. When Xemnas falls, he just calmly accepts it. Sora though presses him, saying that he knows nobodies can grow hearts and wants to know what Xemnas feels. Xemnas says that he feels empty since the companions he had taken for granted had all left him. The first feeling Xemnas has in years is loneliness. Even though he feels pain, Sora reminds him that that makes him human. This offhand comment right at the end from Xemnas about pain taking incredible strength is interesting when looking back at the end of Coded and Dream Drop Distance. Sora was able to take on so much of other people's pain and not lose himself. This shows just how strong Sora's heart is. Okay, this video is getting incredibly long. I don't want to spend too much time on the ending cutscene as a lot of this is just the reunion of the Guardians of Light and the journey to Scala at Caelum, but I did want to point out 4 things. The first is that Cairo is not the last clash between the light and darkness. The clash was actually after this when Sora, Riku, and Mickey all attacked Xehanort. That may be common knowledge at this point, but I did want to point it out. Another thing is how Kairi is crystallized and moved by Xehanort. He was able to cut her down, but somehow store her inside his heart. Is this the same idea as Yozora defeating Sora in order to save him? The third thing is that Sora does a similar animation to this summon animation from Kingdom Hearts 1 when spawning this portal from Xehanort. I'm not sure if that means that Sora is summoning this or just spawning it, but I thought it was a pretty cool detail. The last thing is that this is a portal to Xehanort's dreams, or his heart. We know this is possible through Dream Drop Distance, as seen at the end of the game when the real-life Riku dives into Sora's dreams and to his station to save him from darkness. This means that all the events in Scala are some kind of dreamscape. This will make sense as to why Xehanort had to summon another Kingdom Hearts, since they were no longer in the Light Realm where Kingdom Hearts was summoned, they were in the Dream World. Of course, these last few details are just interpretations of what I think is happening. I'd love to hear what you think though, so let me know down below. Hey you guys, today we are continuing our data battle breakdown series with young Xehanort. This boss has 2 phases, though they are not too different from each other. Young Xehanort also follows a cycle during his attacks. The first phase starts with a combo attack. Young Xehanort will teleport 3 times, attacking as soon as he appears the 3rd time. He form changes his Keyblade into a whip to strike at you twice before teleporting and doing a single strike with its Keyblade, followed by 2 more whip attacks. Young Xehanort then teleports again and does a single strong strike. This creates cracks in the ground and breaks your guard. If you wrist dodge, you can create an opening. Most of Young Xehanort's attacks will either be his Keyblade or his whip form change. The whip form change still keeps the handle, but the rest of the Keyblade changes into the whip. If you are in the air, Young Xehanort will do 2 whip strikes before teleporting and doing 3 whip strikes. The 3rd whip strike will break your guard. Young Xehanort will teleport twice before attacking again. This next attack is a lot of twisting slashes. Young Xehanort will do 2 slashes, twisting in the other direction to follow up with 2 more. He'll then teleport and do the same thing, except after the second set of slashes, he'll do a single slice upwards at the end. This has 2 attack effects instead of the single effect that followed the previous attacks. After this strike, Young Xehanort will be open. Next attack is an Ice Barrage. Young Xehanort will create a line of ice around himself before setting them off towards Sora. He'll then teleport and create another set of ice projectiles. If you get hit, you'll be frozen solid, though you can block it pretty easily. After these ice attacks, Young Xehanort will teleport 3 times before breaking your guard with a whip attack. Sometimes the timing is set up so that he breaks your guard right before the ice hits you. This will cause you to freeze and be open to the next attack. Young Xehanort would then teleport and do a 3-hit whip attack with the last one breaking your guard. He'll do the same attack a second time and will be open to a wrist dodge attack after the 3rd strike. You may have noticed that during the ice cast there is a magic effect in front of Young Xehanort. Trying to attack him during his ice cast will cause him to shield himself with his Keyblade and regenerate some health. You actually see these magic shards shoot towards the middle before Young Xehanort starts spinning his Keyblade in front of himself. A kind of clock effect can be seen moving around the outside of the Keyblade. If you attack him during this, Young Xehanort will stop time and teleport away, casting ice around Sora. Time goes back to normal and the ice flies towards you. There are 2 different kinds of ice attacks. One is an ice cage that forms around you, like the one from his fight in Dream Drop Distance. After casting this, he will do a time stop attack which will leave you open to the ice coming towards you. The other attack is a ring of ice that will fly up and loop back around to hit you. Blocking or getting hit by this will make Young Xehanort teleport and slash at you. This whole attack can trigger if you dodge through both the guard breaking attacks as well. This is the first attack that we already talked about, as well as the whip breaking attack from after the ice barrage attack. Saixer found that there's an opening here. If you attack too early, it'll trigger the time stop attack, but if you hit after this, they'll be open after the first blizzard attack. The next attack is a spinning strike. Young Xehanort will jump into the air and spin towards you. He'll do this 3 times, ending the last strike with a downwards attack. You can counter after this and get an opening. Next up in the cycle is a time stop attack. Young Xehanort will also use this to break out of your combo if you deal too much damage to him at once. Magic spreads out across the ground, and another set of rings appear as Young Xehanort form changes his Keyblade into a whip. As the magic disappears, Young Xehanort throws his whip forward to strike you. Getting hit by this will slow down time, and a flurry of slashes will circle around Sora. When time returns to normal, you can actually see that this attack and effect are red and black. You can also see Young Xehanort running before he teleports and begins the next attack. If you dodge this by either using dodge roll, moving out of range, or simply jumping into the air, Young Xehanort will still do the same animation, though not slowed down. He'll teleport around 3 times after this. After the 3rd time, he'll be open. Saix actually found a cool opening with a shot lock right after the end of the time stop attack, but before he teleports. The next attack is the same ice barrage attack as previously seen, but the attack afterwards is different. Young Xehanort doesn't give you time to block the second set of projectiles, but rather will attack with the flipping slashes we saw earlier. After enough damage is dealt to him, Young Xehanort will use his ultimate attack. This is similar to an attack used in Dream Drop Distance when he had 1 HP. He also does this in the data battle when he is at 1 HP, but we'll talk about that later. Young Xehanort teleports to the middle of the arena and spits out a bluish type of magic instead of the green magic. Numbers can be seen on this and it covers the entire area. Clock hands appear and start to turn as Young Xehanort slows down time. Copies appear around him before they all dash away. To get out of this, you will need to deal enough damage to break the Young Xehanort's armor. This will end the ultimate attack. The first attack shows 3 dashes before a whip fake out followed by an actual strike. This will happen 3 times with a fake out followed by a real attack, though the last real attack is a 2-hit attack. The real Young Xehanort will appear on the last one, and you can punish this to deal some damage to his armor. The next attack is the same exact attack, except in the other direction, so just punish the 3rd hit to deal some more damage. The following attack is just 2 whip attacks, though the fake out still is before each one. There is a pause between them, and the second attack is the real Young Xehanort. A flurry of whip attacks is up next, with the first 3 being fake outs. The next 5 attacks are all real, though blocking the first will make sure you block all of them. The real Young Xehanort appears after this and breaks your guard with his whip. A copy will then appear to strike your opening. Of course, you can wrist dodge and deal some damage here. The next attack is the time stop attack, though after missing you, Young Xehanort will only teleport away once and will be open. After this, 2 copies will dash towards you before another one appears and does a 2-hit attack. There's yet another fake out before the real one appears to deliver another 2-hit attack. This will happen 2 more times with copies before the next attack begins. This is the spinning strike attack, and 3 copies will attack you. During the 3rd attack, another copy will appear and do the time stop attack. The real one appears during this, and after teleporting away once is open. Next, a copy will dash at you before another does a 2-hit attack. During this, another copy will attack you as well. This will happen again with the second attack being by the real one. The last attack starts with a copy during the spinning attack and ending with a strike upwards. The real one appears with a single strike before a copy appears with a 2-hit strike. Another copy appears and does a 3-hit attack before the entire ultimate attack loops. This will keep going until the clock ends up at 12. When it reaches 12, Young Xehanort will appear in the middle and rewind time, giving himself more health and starting the attack all over again. He will actually continue this attack until you deplete his armor, which will not regenerate on subsequent attacks. During this attack, you can see cogs floating in the background. Another interesting thing is that on the edge of this clock, you can see Scala text. Hitting him out of his armor will show him falling backwards before zipping forward and disappearing. After depleting his armor, Young Xehanort will move on to his second phase. It seems like the next time he goes into his ultimate attack, he'll pick up where he left off. meaning if you punish the first attack, he'll actually start with the second attack on the next go around. Now let's look at the second phase. Some of young Xehanort moves change during the second phase, though the actual cycle of attacks doesn't change. What I mean is young Xehanort follows the same cycle of attacks as he does in the first phase. Some of them are just slightly altered. The first attack still has young Xehanort teleporting twice before attacking, though he will teleport once more during his attack. In the first phase, he would do 2 strikes followed by a teleport, and then 3 strikes before teleporting and breaking your guard. In the second phase, he will still open with 2 strikes, but will break up his 3 strikes. He will do a Keyblade strike before a whip attack, but will teleport before delivering the second whip attack. He will then teleport again and do the guard break attack, just like the first phase. The second attack is also different. In the first phase, young Xehanort will do 2 sets of 2 strikes before ending with an upward strike. In the second phase, young Xehanort will only do 1 set first before teleporting and doing 2 sets. These 2 sets of strikes, though, are staggered, so you need to time your guards to avoid being hit. He will then teleport again and do a set of 2 strikes before doing the upward strike. After this, he will teleport again to end with a downward strike. The opening of this attack is a little less telegraphed. After the second attack, young Xehanort has a brief pause before attacking you again. The opening is very tight, but you can hit him here to knock him out of the attack. The rest of the attacks in the second phase are the same and follow the same cycle as the first phase. At the end of the cycle, young Xehanort will sometimes do his ultimate attack. When young Xehanort reaches 1 HP, he will teleport to the center and do his ultimate attack, though he and his clones are more aggressive. A clone shoots ice projectiles at you as a clone fakes you out. Then a clone and the real young Xehanort attack you with whips. You need to keep an eye on the ice projectiles since they will reach you by the time that the real one is open. After the ice, the real one will attack you with a 3-hit attack. The real young Xehanort then appears and spawns a ring of ice around you as 2 clones fake you out, and another one strikes at you with his whip. This will break your guard. The next set of attacks are fake outs followed by 2-hit slashes. This will happen 3 times followed by a fake out and a guard break attack. During this, the real young Xehanort will create a dome of ice around you to attack. He is open here, but you need to watch out for the incoming ice. The rest of this attack actually follows the initial ultimate attack until time runs out. If he gets to the end, he will refill his HP and restart his ultimate attack, but will follow the cycle of the original ultimate attack and not this one. He will still keep the same amount of armor as he had from his previous attack though. After you hit him out of that attack and return him to 1 HP, he will teleport to the middle again and do this ultimate attack. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Data Ansem. This is a pretty simple fight with a ton of callbacks to Kingdom Hearts 1 and Dream Drop Distance. I'll have a box on screen like this with any references to attacks from previous games. This fight is broken up into 3 phases, with Ansem using an ultimate attack at certain HP gates. This ultimate attack actually slightly changes for each phase. Let's look at the first phase. During this phase, Ansem will cycle between 3 sequences of attacks. Ansem's first attack starts with him summoning dark orbs around Sora. 2 orbs will glow before shooting a beam at you. This will happen 4 times before Ansem summons a set of mines that home in on you. Ansem will follow this up with casts of dark fire. Each set of casts will have 1 group of fast-moving casts and a group of slow ones. There are 2 openings throughout this whole sequence. The first is right after Ansem summons the mines, and the other is after his cast of dark fire. You can actually hit him after the first and second cast of dark fire. Ansem's next attack opens with a spinning beam shield. He'll immediately teleport away after the dash and send a pool of darkness out below you before spawning mines all around you. Unblockable claws will appear from the pool, hitting into the air before the mines close in on you. Ansem will be open after spawning the mines, but you'll have to be careful as the mines will home in on you. The last attack he will do is a set of 3 dash attacks. The third one has a slower build-up for the stronger dash. After the third dash, Ansem will teleport away and be open. When you damage Ansem enough, he will start his ultimate attack by teleporting to the middle of the arena and plunging the arena into darkness. If you play Dream Drop Distance, then this area probably looks very familiar. 2 giant orbs of darkness stay near Ansem for most of this sequence. Hitting these will damage you, and from time to time these orbs will shoot out casts of dark fire, which inflicts a random status ailment on you. Ansem will go through 3 sets of attacks for this first ultimate attack. The first is simply both orbs shooting at you twice. Block the attacks or dodge them, and Ansem will be open. The second attack has the orbs rising into the air to rain down casts of magic, while unblockable claws attack you from the floor. The last attack has the orbs surrounding Sora and catching him in crossfire. After a couple casts of magic, the orbs will close in on Sora. If he gets caught, there will be a short animation showing Ansem making the orb explode. If you dodge this trap, Ansem will be open. After this attack, Ansem will be in his second phase. Ansem will cycle through 4 attacks now, with 2 being new attacks with previous attacks worked in, 1 slightly changed attack, and 1 that is not changed from the first phase. The unchanged attack is this dashing one. The slightly changed attack is the Dark Orb and Mine attack. Ansem summons twice as many mines. He still has the same opening here. The first new attack is Ansem teleporting to the middle of the arena and drawing you in. Orbs appear around you to damage you and push you towards the center. After a little bit, Ansem will unleash dark tendrils, which are unblockable. Staying far away will keep you safe, and at the end you can air step in for an opening. The last attack in this phase opens with Ansem spawning beams that rain down into the arena. He then spawns a set of mines and dark orbs before raining down more beams. Ansem then follows this up in one of 2 ways. One of them, he will summon his Beam Shield and dash at you before doing the Dark Claw and Mine attack. The other is where he summons 2 beams that do sweeping attacks, and then summoning the Dark Claws and Mines. Ansem has the same opening he had with this attack from the first phase. Again, after dealing enough damage, Ansem will plunge the arena back into darkness. This time you will not be able to leave until you hit one of Ansem's openings. There are 2 extra attacks added in, and Ansem also adds in some of his beams to the orb attack that rains down magic to shake things up. The first new attack is Ansem positioning the orbs in front of himself as they shoot casts of magic at you. After the cast, the orbs will fly towards you. If you can dodge both, Ansem will be open. During this sequence, Ansem will use one of his attacks in the second phase, summoning orbs that shoot the sweeping beams at you as a Dark Claw and Mines attack you. The last attack is Ansem teleporting to one side of the arena and spinning the orbs around himself, summoning more orbs that fly towards you. There is a pattern to this with about 2 or 3 waves coming at you before a set of orbs are lined up around Ansem and shot out one by one. After this, Ansem will be open. The last phase stays in the darkness-covered arena, regardless of any openings you hit. Ansem starts this out by forming his orbs together and dispersing them, raining down smaller versions of the balls we saw earlier around himself. Darkness swirls above him as well during this attack. Multiple groups of these balls will fly out to hit Sora and are unblockable, though the wave that comes out every so often can be blocked. It will still spawn an unblockable attack around you though, so you should probably just dodge it. After a while, this attack will end, and Ansem will do the rest of the attacks we've seen before. For the attack where he stacks the orbs in front of himself, he will spawn the orbs that have sweeping beams. For the attack where the orbs surround you, Ansem will spawn mines. Look for the openings, and eventually you will win out during this last stretch. Ansem has some lines he says when he defeats you and when you defeat him. I'll play them for you here. And I think that was all I have for you guys today. This fight was one of the simpler ones in my opinion, though the ultimate attacks are no joke. I do like how the attacks are all kind of layered in by the end of the fight, which is super rewarding when you start picking up on the cycles. Hey you guys, next up on the list is... No, I can't deal with him today. I can't. Let's look at Xemnas. This fight is pretty intense if you do not take it slowly. This is one of the only fights I was not able to just power my way through. There are 2 phases in this fight, though the attacks are just slightly modified, with one mixture of attacks added in on the second phase, so what I'll do is go through the attacks, noting the differences between phases, and then cover the ultimate attack. The first attack we'll be looking at has Xemnas shooting Dark Thorns at you to displace you. This temporarily locks you out of commands, and can set you up to get hit with an attack. You will see this move a lot. Like, way too much. Leaving? No, I'm not. I'm trying to come in close and hit you in the face with this stupid Keyblade. Anyways, this attack is a callback to an attack final Xemnas used in Kingdom Hearts 2. Thankfully, the KH3 variant does not damage you and simply moves you around. After the Dark Thorns, Xemnas will send 4 magic orbs towards you. These can be blocked, but it is probably easier to just dodge out of the way. This attack first appears in Kingdom Hearts 1 against the Secret Xemnas fight. It also shows up in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. Xemnas then spawns a pane of glass that he will try to bounce you off of with a Dark Thorn. This sets you up for a strong, unblockable attack. The glass pane is something also seen in KH1 and used during a couple of the Xemnas fights in Kingdom Hearts 2. If you dodge the Dark Thorn here, Xemnas will be open to an attack. In the second phase, Xemnas will send out an extra set of magic orbs at the beginning. The next attack is a long combo opening with Xemnas strafing around you before diving towards you with his hand saber thing? I don't know what to call it. Lightsaber? Is that allowed? He'll then slash at you before doing a diving kick. As he kicks out of this, he will do a crossing slash. He'll then throw a Dark Thorn at you before doing another saber strike and a double kick, ending with a spinning slash upwards. A couple of these attacks are from his opening attack from his final Xemnas fight. I'll hold them up on screen so you can see them side by side. Blocking the last rising attack will stop Xemnas in his tracks and open him up to a counterattack. The only real change here between the 2 phases is that a Dark Thorn appears halfway through the combo to shake you up. The opening is gone from this attack in the second phase as well, as Xemnas immediately teleports away to shoot a Dark Thorn at you before moving on to his next attack. Xemnas also has a shorter combo filled with just kicks. I'm not going to go through each action because that's kind of boring to be honest, but I will have it slowed down. There's an opening here when he flips backwards, though the timing can be a bit tight. During the second phase, a Dark Thorn appears right when he has an opening, and he'll teleport away before finishing the rest of the combo. The last combo is an all-saber combo. Again, I'm not going to explain each little detail, but at the end, Xemnas will do a strong slashing attack that breaks your guard. Wrist dodging will create an opening. You have to be careful not to dodge too early though, since you can sometimes dodge to where he was before he teleports away. I believe in the second phase, this changes to only half of the combo before Xemnas spawns his Dark Thorns and bullets followed by his orb attack. The opening is still there at the end of the orb attack, I believe. Dodging the Dark Thorn here will have Xemnas continue his combo, creating an opening with the wrist dodge attack. The next attack opens with another Dark Thorn before Xemnas flies around you spawning orbs that shoot red beams. After this, he will teleport near you to do his crossing slash attack. Dodge this to create an opening. The beams are another attack that appeared in both KH1 and KH2. It's honestly really cool to see Xemnas mix and match his old arsenal up in this fight. This attack does not change in the second phase to my knowledge. The last attack Xemnas has involves him creating 3 panes of glass before doing diving kicks and strikes alongside dark thorns, which throw you against the panes. After a while of this, or if you dodge one of the attacks, Xemnas will teleport and spin towards you with his blades. Blocking this will create an opening. You can also create an opening though if you break all the panes before the attack starts. If you don't hit him here though, Xemnas will still do a spinning strike. This attack does not change during the second phase. When you damage Xemnas enough, he will start his ultimate attack by teleporting to the middle of the arena and plunging the arena into darkness. This is broken up into 3 parts. The first part has a combo attack that Xemnas will do 4 times. Xemnas will then call forth his beam dome and rain down bullets on you. Xemnas will then appear and do a kick and combo 3 times before shooting more bullets at you, though this time, some blue unblockable bullets are mixed in. You can tell they are coming because a flash of light will signal them. You should be able to dodge the shots and continue blocking. The final part of the DM has Xemnas doing his crossing slash mixed in with 2 hit slashes. The final set of bullets will have 2 sets of blue bullets mixed in before all of the bullets rain down, whiting out the screen. This will leave Sora stunned as Xemnas appears for his cross slash attack. Being in a form change will negate this effect. During the second phase, when the screen fades back in, multiple panes of glass will be spawned. Xemnas will then use his dark thorns during all of his other attacks to throw you against these. There is an interesting aspect of this DM where if you dodge the Dark Thorns, you can actually create an opening in the first attack and shorten some of the other attacks. Xemnas has some lines he says when he defeats you and when you defeat him. I'll play them for you here.
I banish you to the void.
And I think that is all I have for you guys today. This fight was really interesting despite how frustrated I was trying to figure it out. I thought it was really interesting how the second phase covered a lot of the openings from the first with Dark Thorns, or just took those openings out. It was definitely confusing and made everything feel completely different, even though the attacks remained relatively unchanged. Also, I do want to say, I'm sure I got something wrong. This was actually a really complex fight, so if there was something I missed, let me know down below in the comments. Hey you guys, today we were looking at the Armored Vessels fight at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. Sora, Donald, and Goofy open up a portal and follow Xehanort and Scala at Caelum, and when they get there, they see multiple Xehanorts all walking around. You can actually see them having a kind of TV static effect before they all change into the Armored Vessels. The static effect makes you think of the bug blocks in the Union Cross mobile game. They also had that same static effect, and it turned out that it was a datascape that they were in. I wonder if that has any kind of meaning for this event in Kingdom Hearts 3. There's also evidence though that this place is a dream world, as hinted at by the dream portal that Sora summoned from Xehanort. There's also this glass effect we can see when the terrain is destroyed. I actually didn't find this, and I want to give credit to Damo279 for finding this. He actually has an amazing knowledge of the Union Cross story, and if you're not following, you need to be. With Dark Road coming out, you're going to want to be subscribed to him. Anyways, let's get back to the Armored Vessels. Their helmet looks really similar to the aesthetic of the no-name Keyblade, and makes sense actually, as there were 13 no-name Keyblades that were created during the clashes in the Keyblade graveyard. These vessels all rise into the air in a circle over the party before disappearing. If you count all of them, you will actually see that there are only 12 vessels here. We have all the Seekers of Darkness here besides Xehanort himself, since the vessel wielding the no-name Keyblade is probably Terra Xehanort. After we defeat the vessels, we see the real Xehanort unscathed since he sat the battle out. Their Mind DLC also shows a future Sora having a conversation with Xehanort, while the rest of the vessels all float above the past Sora. This fight takes place in a giant arena, and has the vessels teleporting in at various locations to attack you. I'll cycle through all the different locations that I've personally had the vessels spawn in. It seems like depending on which area you go to, there will be a different number of vessels spawned. The Xigbar vessel will always appear though and charge up a shot to fire at you, while the other vessels all spin towards you to attack. All of this can be blocked pretty easily, and after the barrage of attacks, usually only 3 vessels will be left behind, with the rest of them teleporting away. From what I've seen, during this section there are really only 3 or 4 different attacks. Each of the vessels do a 3-hit attack, though blocking will throw them off balance. From what I've seen, this 3-hit combo is the same for all the vessels except for Xigbar, who will shoot at you with 2 different kinds of attacks. The vessels will have their respective hit effects during their attacks, but it did feel a little odd to realize that they all shared the same 3-hit combo. Other than that, the only other attacks I've seen are the spinning attacks that we saw before, and this uppercut attack. The uppercut sets you up to get hit by the spinning attack actually. As you go through the battle, the number of vessels will start to increase after the initial 3 appear, and they will keep spinning towards you to attack. This will also happen in the uppercut attack, and more vessels will appear to attack you after you are launched. So in the beginning of the battle, you'll be launched by the uppercut and probably be attacked by 1 or 2 vessels, but by the end of the battle, there are a lot more vessels spitting at you. There's also an alternative spawn that can happen where the vessels all appear around you. The vessels will then start teleporting away from you to do a spinning attack. After a certain amount of time, there will be a flash of light and all of the vessels will disappear. Traveling to another spawn point will move the battle forward. After dealing enough damage, the vessels will start to use their ultimate attack. You'll notice happening when they are around the vessels changes to red, and they jump upwards before disappearing. The first time this happens, there will be a short cutscene showing them all floating upwards, forming a giant circle above the island. After the first time though, they will just disappear and the ultimate attack will start. Scala text circles around the tower, and magic circles form around each vessel. Red beams shoot towards the center of the island as dark spirals black out the sky, and a giant red magic circle forms over the entire island. You can actually see that the text in this circle is mirrored. The symbols follow the same pattern on both sides. Scattered across this magic circle are also the Heartless symbol, the Nightmare symbol, the Dream Eater symbol, and the Nobody symbol. Much like the Ultimate Form magic circle, there seems to be swords in this one as well. This attack seems to be some kind of Dark Holy attack as beams of energy shoot down out of the sky. These are spawned from the smaller magic circles that appear in the air above you. These bear resemblance to the white circles in the overhead magic circle. Beams on the outside of these rings travel down with the middle beam before a giant red beam of energy shoots down. 3 vessels will then appear to dash towards you. This will happen twice before 6 appear, and then all 12 appear to attack. 1 vessel will then teleport to you to launch you into the air. The vessels all circle around you before they attack. What I've seen, the vessels are all randomized during this. As the sky lightens, you can see the magic circle above Scala melting away. There's a Discord server that was working on the Scala language, but I'm not sure where they're at on it. I'll leave a link down below in the description in case you're interested and want to help out with that. Other than that, I don't think there are any other attacks. I did want to point out a couple of smaller things though. At one point during my testing, one of the vessels bugged out and just floated there for a while. Even attacking him didn't trigger anything. It was pretty odd, and I'm wondering if anyone else had this happen. It could be a kind of opening after surviving for too long, but I kind of doubt that. Also, people have found that both arrow magic as well as the ultimate weapon shotlock make light work of this boss, so if you're having trouble, be sure to use those. After defeating these vessels, Xehanort will appear and absorb all of them. The vessels turn into orbs of light and darkness, again showing that these were crafted from the no-name Keyblades, born from the clashes between the two sides. From the look of the light and darkness emanating from Xehanort, it seems that somehow through absorbing all of these vessels, Xehanort is able to create this goat armor. Hey you guys, today we're going to be looking at the goat armored Xehanort from the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. This will cover the 3 phases of the final battle directly after the armored vessels fight. Eventually I want to talk about the separate battle at the end of Remind, but I'll save that for another video. Let's get on to the first phase. After defeating the armored vessels, we see Xehanort reminiscing about Scala. It was once a seat of power for Keyblade wielders, the nexus from which all worlds spring. I feel like these two comments are connected with Dark Road. We know this place was built after Daybreak Town fell, and from what we've seen from the Dark Road teasers, more than just Xehanort and Ericus trained here. So the comment about a seat of power for Keyblade wielders is easy to deduce. But the comment about how this place is the nexus from which all worlds spring isn't really clear since we know that worlds survived the Keyblade War but were just separated. Could it be that the reason those worlds survived was because of the Keyblade wielders who trained here? Anyways, this is not a Scala XIII Breakdown, so let's move on. Actually, you can see here that the different islands are all covered differently, which is a weird detail. Could this have some relation to the Dandelions, the Foretellers, or even the newest group introduced in Dark Road? Okay, now that's all I want to say about Scala. Moving on. We see the defeated vessels rise into the air before disappearing into these orbs of light and darkness. These all shoot towards Xehanort, and as he absorbs them, we see a flash of energy around him. Xehanort rises into the air as darkness covers his body. Light and darkness then push out around him before it wraps around his body. When the darkness and light disappear, we see Xehanort in a new set of armor. He summons his Keyblade with the goat head clearly visible as it zooms out to show that his armor mirrors his Keyblade. His armor has the same color scheme as the armored vessels, and his horns seem to show the mixture of light and darkness, since a thin black stripe wraps around the white horns. You probably noticed, and now can never unsee, that Xehanort looks out through the neck of this armor rather than the head. Another thing I want to point out about this armor is this section on the back of the armor. This immediately reminded me of the Unversed Eyes, though I couldn't find an exact match. The last things I'll highlight are the different symbols on the front of his armor. We see an X worked in with 2 belts above this heart symbol. Over the heart is a horned Scala rod that we've seen in the classroom as well as in some attacks from Data Xehanort. It's not exactly the same, but it does bear striking resemblance. There's also this symbol on his shoulders. I don't believe we've seen this one either, though it does remind me of Aqua's chest piece. I want to point these out just in case they appear in Dark Road. Anyways, Xehanort ends this cutscene by morphing the environment, causing Sora, Donald, and Goofy to fall back into the changing area. The screen fades out before we see Sora landing on a building as the first phase begins. During this first phase, you are in a boxed-in area created by the Scala buildings. You can see these light green lines connecting the pieces to create the box. I thought the effect was really cool and never even noticed this until I started working on this breakdown. Let's look at all the different attacks you'll use during this phase. The first attack is a 5-hit combo. Xehanort's Keyblade will glow red before he slashes at you 3 times. If you are far away from him, the second slash will show Xehanort dashing towards you before he attacks. After this 3-hit attack, Xehanort will do a launching attack. He flies back before flipping and hitting you into the air. You can actually see him twisting during this attack. After this, he will teleport and do a downward strike. If you are in the air, this will throw you down towards the ground. If you block this, the force of the attack will push Sora back. This downward strike will also trigger if you are too high in the arena. The next attack is a spinning attack. Xehanort twists around as red lightning spins around him from the slashes. After a bit, he will let go of his Keyblade, catching it in a backhand style before slashing back in the other direction. He will fly back, flipping backwards before looping the attack again. Alongside these 2 attacks, Xehanort will do one more physical attack. This is a thrust attack. Xehanort will dash towards Sora 3 times. This has an effect similar to Sora's Sonic Blade attack. Xehanort's effect though shows a mixture of light and darkness. After this, Xehanort will do 2 slashes followed by a spinning attack and ending with a downward strike. Xehanort can also cast magic during this phase. One of them shows Xehanort gathering energy as his hand glows purple. He then throws his hand forward, throwing out energy bursts over a wide area. Another attack is this orb explosion. Energy gathers where Sora is and draws him in before exploding. These light effects at the end of the explosion are similar to Sora's explosion effects from his Ripple Drive attack in second form. During the charge up, you can see yellow orbs being sucked in. You see the same kind of orbs later on in this phase with this teleporting attack with green orbs. The last attack in this phase is an attack that teleports Sora closer to Xehanort, stunned and open to attack. Orbs will surround Sora and follow him around as Xehanort attacks you with his spinning slashes. After these slashes, the orbs will flash before closing in on Sora and teleporting him close to Xehanort. It almost looks like Xehanort summoned Sora with these 2 circles of Scala text. A pool of darkness appears as Sora materializes before Xehanort attacks. After you deal enough damage, Xehanort will teleport to the middle of the arena and use his ultimate attack. He will spin into the air with his free hand glowing before a giant pillar shoots downward. After this, small pillars will shoot down around the arena. Xehanort will then shoot 3 waves of energy bursts. He will then teleport to do the thrusting strike attack we saw previously. After this, he will teleport back into the pillar and shoot out 2 more energy blasts before doing the thrusting attack again. During this, there will be a blast array that pulls Sora into the air. The pillar will then disappear and Xehanort will gather energy. This is essentially a large-scale version of the exploding orb we saw earlier. If you stay away long enough, the teleporting orbs will appear to move you closer to Xehanort. After this attack, you can see the walls of the arena have all been scratched up. After dealing enough damage, Xehanort will twist the arena, causing Sora, Donald, and Goofy to fall into the water in the ceiling. When the screen fades back in, we get a shot of the fallen Daybreak Town tower. There are a ton of cool details in this part of the fight. Looking below the arena shows a fallen pendulum, which we can actually see swinging in back cover. We can also see this catwalk at the top of the arena, which was also seen in back cover. Looking outwards shows that there are other structures under the other islands, though they don't look like the Daybreak Town tower. I think this is another detail we should keep in mind as we get closer to the Dark Road releasing. All of Xehanort's attacks here are variations of his attacks from the first phase. He has a 3-hit attack which starts with a thrusting attack followed by 2 slashes. Xehanort can also use the Orb Explosion attack, which he will do twice, followed up by his 3-hit attack. Xehanort can also summon his Pillar of Fire, as well as the energy shots. For Xehanort's ultimate attack in this phase, he will summon 5 pillars that circle around you as he closes into attack. He opens with his 3-hit combo before doing a 2-hit attack, followed by his spinning attack we saw previously. He then disappears and the pillars close in on you. The pillars form into one giant one, and Xehanort shoots out energy shots that close in on both sides of you. This happens 3 times before he moves on to another attack. After dealing enough damage here, Xehanort will teleport away and Sora jumps out of the water. Sora starts to run towards Xehanort but is blocked by a fire pillar that throws him into the air. Sora glides down and hangs in the air as the 3rd phase starts. Much of the 3rd phase uses attacks from the previous 2 phases. The combo this time mashes together the 3-hit combo and the spinning attack. Xehanort does a slash before doing the spinning attack and ending with the launching attack. Xehanort will also use pillars, energy shots, as well as the exploding orbs during this. The teleporting attack is also here with Xehanort spawning the exploding orbs. If you get caught, Xehanort will do his attack from the first phase, though instead of ending with a downward strike, Xehanort teleports and tries to grab you, his hand glowing a lightish blue color. If he catches you, he will twist you into the air, holding Sora up by his head before throwing him down to the ground. Sora then jumps back towards Xehanort, who teleports away. This grab can also trigger after a combo of orb explosions and energy shots. This grab attack is really similar to the attack that Xehanort uses against Vanitas in Birth by Sleep. I think the light blue color is actually a nod to the Blizzard attack that Xehanort uses against Vanitas. His ultimate attack is pretty similar to the one from his first phase. A giant pillar of fire is called down before Sora is pushed higher into the air. You dodge pillars before Xehanort shoots 3 energy shots at you. He'll then do his combo from the first phase before teleporting to grab you. Then he will shoot out 2 bursts before he does his dashing attack, followed by 2 more energy bursts and another combo ending with the grab. The pillar will then disappear as Xehanort teleports into the air and charges up with a giant orb that draws Sora in. If you stay away, the green orbs will appear to teleport you closer. You can dodge the attack, but the rubble that flies out from the explosion can damage you. The only other thing I noticed in this phase was that if you are far enough away, Xehanort will do this charging animation. I've never seen him use this close enough to damage Sora, but it's definitely possible. After defeating the armored Xehanort, his Keyblade falls to the ground as his armor cracks. A flash of light appears as his armor shatters. He falls to his knees but escapes through a dark corridor. Somehow, Sora knows that he teleported to the top of the tower and begins scaling the wreckage to get to him. And that is all I have for you guys today. This was actually a really fun battle to look at. I was really impressed with the details we saw in the armor as well as the underwater area. I feel like these things may appear in Dark Road or even the normal Union Cross story as we get closer to finally getting some more information on Scala at Caelum. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at the final Xehanort fight in Kingdom Hearts 3. At some point I do want to take a look at the Remind Xehanort fight, but that'll have to wait for another time. This fight is separated into 2 phases. All of the attacks are honestly pretty simple, so this will probably be a short video. In the first phase, Xehanort mainly uses physical attacks against you. There are 3 variations of attacks he will use. The first is an incredibly fast 5-hit combo. One of the attacks will launch Sora into the air, setting him up to be slammed back down to the ground with the last hit. The second variation is a set of teleporting attacks. Xehanort will dash towards you for the first hit before teleporting and slashing at you 3 times. The upper slashes will hit you into the air. Occasionally Xehanort will do 2 slashes to open this attack instead of 1. The last variation has Xehanort teleporting and dashing at you 3 times. The only other attack I've seen in this phase is this Magic Barrage. Xehanort throws his Keyblade at you, casting blizzards, fires, and thunders at you. Blocking this will throw the Keyblade back at him. And that is really it for the first phase. There are a couple of cool things though in this area that I wanted to point out before we move on. On either side of the arena is this plaque that looks to have a Keyblade beneath the heart. These 2 E's right above it though were Keyblades on this plaque in the classroom. So maybe there are 3 Keyblades in this? Anyways, I feel like this is an odd thing to take the time to model, so I'm sure there's some kind of meaning to it. The floor of this arena was also pretty interesting. There's a checkerboard aesthetic in the circle and there are 7 points as well as Scala numbers numbering up to 7. After damaging Xehanort enough, he will rise above the arena and summon magic circles to raise Sora into the sky. As they rise into the air, Xehanort again summons Kingdom Hearts, though this one is yellow still rather than the dark Kingdom Hearts we saw in the Keyblade graveyard. Judging from the Remind scenario cutscenes though, we see that both Kingdom Hearts are still summoned. So does that mean that this isn't actually the real Kingdom Hearts? Or can just multiple Kingdom Hearts be summoned at the same time? Or is this a dream so it's a different realm than the real realm? I don't know. Anyways, Xehanort moves in front of Kingdom Hearts before turning around to face Sora. At the start of the fight, Xehanort will shoot down dark fires at you. I've pointed this out before in the data battle breakdown, but this is similar to the dark fires summoned in previous games. Alongside this, Xehanort will use his Za Magic Barrage from the last phase. Xehanort will do 2 physical attacks against you. The first attack is a set of teleporting dash attacks. Xehanort will switch between attacking you and attacking your party. Xehanort will attack you twice, then attack your party. He'll dash towards you and then your party another time before attacking you twice more. After this, he will teleport away, waiting for a second before dashing towards you and striking at you before doing 3 teleporting attacks. The other attack is a set of 4 teleporting dashes that only target Sora. After dealing enough damage, Xehanort will move on to his ultimate attack. The first part of the attack shows Xehanort throwing his Keyblade into the air as rays of light come down around the arena like a cage. Sora's light is stolen from him, causing him to go into rage form. Pillars of light appear on the center before they start to circle outwards in sets of 4. As these spin outwards, Xehanort appears in the middle before dashing towards Sora. He can do a number of different attacks from his previous phases. For some of his attacks where he slashes at you, rings of energy will shoot out from his Keyblade. He can also teleport into the center and shoot out 2 waves of light. Being too close to the center will shoot out a wave of energy as well. When you land hits on Xehanort, he will drop light, and when enough is gathered, a command called Return to the Light appears. This shows Sora flipping backwards before dashing through Xehanort 7 times. He then flips into the air before tendrils of darkness shoot out of him. He does one final thrust down through Xehanort and hits the ground, causing an explosion. As the screen fades back in, we can see that the arena has changed. The nobody chairs rise around a darkened arena, and Xehanort's ghost symbol glows red in the middle. A shadow Xehanort looks down from the tallest chair before the attack starts. You can see flashes of darkness appear from the other chairs before Xehanort's shadows all fly towards you to strike. These shadows all use the no-name Keyblade. After all of them strike, Xehanort summons a cannon to shoot at you. This is different than the data battle cannons, as this is just 2 spinning rings with the kingdom keys spinning around them. A beam of darkness shoots towards you as more shadows fly to strike you. Cannons continue to spawn as more shadows appear to strike you. At the end of the attack, 3 cannons are spawned before a giant one is summoned that shoots a beam of light at you. You can actually see 2 giant kingdom keys for a split second before the beam is shot out. The background moves during the attack and slowly changes to a red color during this. And that is really it for the second phase. I do want to take a minute though to look at the magic circles below you. The magic circles below the big one have some really interesting symbols. One has the 20 chess piece symbols, and another one has the foretellers and the masters symbols. Alongside those, there are a couple of symbols we haven't seen before. I'll have them up on screen, though it is a little hard to see some of them with all the different magic circles overlaid on top of each other. I really think some of these will be brought up either in Dark Road or referenced in a future game. One that I do want to point out though is this star circle, which may have connections to the stars in the final world or the stars in the Daybreak Town Tower. When Xehanort's health is depleted, the command Last Ray appears. Sora shoots a blue beam of light to end the fight, but it is somehow stopped before reaching Xehanort. Xehanort raises his Keyblade, causing the Kingdom Hearts behind himself to darken before shooting a beam of darkness at Sora. This overwhelms him, causing him to fall back into the death screen. Sora will float here until you hit a button. Also, if you hear the sound turned on your PS4 controller, you will actually hear Donald and Goofy calling out Sora's name. After a couple hits from some buttons, Trinity appears. A green and blue light fly down towards Sora. As they near him, you can see a red light appearing near Sora's heart. A flash of light appears and Sora opens his eyes to see that he is back again guarding against the dark beam. Donald and Goofy appear behind him to help and lend him their power to overpower Xehanort with light. And that is all I have for you guys today. While I thought this final battle was a little lacking, I loved the settings. Fighting at the top of this tower and on these detailed magic circles was really interesting and were some really cool set pieces. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at Data Xehanort. I was planning on going through the data org chronologically, but I've been finding some really interesting things in this fight, so I wanted to cover it as soon as possible. Anyways, I don't want to waste your time, so let's get started with the breakdown. The fight opens the same every time. Xehanort will teleport out of the arena and rain down casts of darkness on you. 7 projectiles will be shot towards you, but can be blocked pretty easily. To make this attack harder to deal with though, 2 cannons will appear on either side of Xehanort to shoot at you with an unblockable attack. This cannon-like attack appears later, so we will take a closer look at it then. Xehanort is outside of the arena during this attack, so it is best to just guard the projectiles and evade the beams. You can still use magic though to damage him here. These orbs of darkness bear a resemblance to the casts of darkness Xehanort used to summon Kingdom Hearts in Birth by Sleep. This attack will always be followed up by a barrage of magic. Xehanort teleports using a keyhole spawned from the Keyblade before throwing it forward and casting Blazaza. Frozen, Sora will have a hard time dodging the casts of Fireaza that come next. Lastly, Thundaza will rain down on you 3 times, with the cannons appearing to make dodging the lightning harder. Blocking the initial Keyblade throw will leave Xehanort open to attack. After this, Xehanort uses light attack from his fight in the base game, though this time you will not be forced into rage form. He throws his Keyblade into the air as light shoots out from it. A beam of light shoots up from the center of the arena, and Scala text can be seen on the floor. This middle circle looks really similar to the magic circle created during the Armored Vessels fight. Circles of light spin out from the center before locking into place around these symbols. These are where the light beams will later spawn from. A kind of light cage can be seen in the sky, and clouds not cover a bright sky. If you are too close to the center, a shockwave will push you out. You can actually block this as well as the pillars of light that circle out during the sequence. During this sequence, there are 2 phases. Each phase is the length of time it takes for all the pillars of light to move across the arena. 2 pillars of light will move towards you as Xehanort appears. Xehanort will then slash his Keyblade and spawn these golden globe-like things. These will spin towards you and can be blocked, though after a bit of time they will explode and ignore your guard. Getting hit by this will freeze you. There are a ton of details on these globes. For some reason, all of the pieces have textures printed on them, even though you would hardly be able to notice it during actual combat. There are multiple blades of the Keyblade spinning from the center of it as well. The middle of the globe makes me think of this contraption seen in Scala at Caelum. Also, these rods seen on the globe, and when it explodes, are also seen in Scala. Thanks to 13th Vessel, we were able to see inside of the whole classroom that young Xehanort and Ericus played chess in. Some of the details on the chess pieces look similar to these rods, but what really looks similar are these pieces on the wall decal hanging on the wall. If you look at the top of this plaque, you will see a symbol representing the Seekers of Darkness. They're represented by these single rods, much like the ones in the globe attack. Finally, the rods connected with the rings on the globe are seen in the Magic Launcher form change. I believe this Keyblade connected with the form change was actually supposed to be received during a visit to the Mysterious Tower. We know that Yensid has an affinity with the Star aesthetic, as the Star Seeker was given to both Mickey and Sora here, and Mickey received a Star Shard from Yensid in Birth by Sleep, which he could use to travel to other worlds. I think the Mysterious Tower got cut during development, and with the Keyblade already made, the developers decided to give it as a reward for finishing Twilight Town, since you probably would have visited the Mysterious Tower around the same time. Yensid trained with both Xehanort and Ericus, so I think this is why we see Scala elements in the Magic Launcher form change. Finally, the last detail I want to point out about this globe is the top part of it. This is practically the blade of the Keyblade of Heart from Kingdom Hearts 1. I'll talk more about this later in the video, but for now let's get on with the breakdown. During the first phase of this attack, Xehanort will slash once and send a globe towards you. Then he'll teleport and send two at you. All these can be blocked, and since they are moving so fast, they will explode far away from you. The next one though moves at a slower pace, so dodge roll through this so you don't get caught in the explosion. After this slow globe, Xehanort will be open. During this whole sequence, hitting Xehanort even once will cause him to cancel out the entire attack and move on with the battle. If you miss him here, he will teleport and do another set of attacks. First, he will shoot a fast globe before teleporting and shooting a slow one. He will then follow this up with another slow one before two more send after you. After this, he will send one last globe after you. After this, he will be open. The second phase opens with the same Pillars of Light, but Xehanort will start with a second set of attacks from the first phase. Another pillar attack will shoot towards you before Xehanort will appear to do a two-hit attack against you. He'll then teleport and send one globe at you to end the phase. Then the whole sequence will restart from the top and loop until you deal some damage to Xehanort. After you get out of the special attack, the next attack is a barrage of beams from the cannons we saw previously. These cannons are all actually form changes of the Keyblade. You can see it spinning before the wings detach and move out to the ends of the middle. The blade of the Keyblade extends and morphs into the rod we saw earlier as the rings spin out on either side of it. These also have rods, and the rings bear striking resemblance to the Magic Launcher form change rings. The Kingdom Key as well as the Kingdom Key D move out from the Keyblade and spin before shooting a beam towards the edge of the Keyblade. While these Keyblades are spinning, multiple blades appear before all of them charge up and shoot out beams in all directions. A ring appears in front of all of the different blades that shoot out energy. Behind the Keyblade, a disc appears with hearts engraved in it. At the end of the attack, everything condenses back into the Keyblade. This happens 3 times. The first time 3 cannons appear, second time only 2 appear, and the third time 2 appear alongside a giant cannon. While you can't block the initial beam, you can actually block the other beams after dodging. There's another attack later on that gives us a better look at this giant cannon, so I'll wait until then to talk about it. The fact that a Kingdom Key and a Kingdom Key D appear are really interesting to me. Now we have seen a nod to a Keyblade of Heart, as well as a Keyblade of Light and a Keyblade of Darkness. We do know that these 3 families of Keyblades were based off of the Keyblade, but it's still really interesting to see nods to all 3 families of Keyblades during all these attacks. I do want to make a slight detour and point out something I found in the Scala classroom. In this classroom, we see the no-name Keyblade hanging on a plaque surrounded by engravings of Keyblades. Thanks to 13th Vessel, we were able to have a closer look at this, and we can see that the Keyblades shoot out on either side of the no-name Keyblade, and we also see what looks to be Keyblades of Heart on the bottom of it. I think the Keyblades shooting out on either side represent the Keyblades of Light and the Keyblades of Darkness, since like Xehanort said in his journal from Birth by Sleep, they look the same but originate from 2 different areas. The no-name Keyblade lays at the center, and from what we've seen during the ending, this Keyblade somehow is replicated during the clashes between Light and Darkness, all morphing together to create the Keyblade and open Kingdom Hearts. This makes me think that the other Keyblades all originated from the original Keyblade, which is why we see nods to all 3 families of Keyblades during the Keyblades attacks. Also, one last thing to note is that opening Kingdom Hearts was supposedly a characteristic of the Keyblade of Heart, as detailed by Xehanort in his journal from Birth by Sleep. Okay, we keep getting sidetracked, I'm so sorry, let's move on to the next part of this battle. After the beam attack, Xehanort will appear to do a 2-hit strike. If the second strike connects with you, Xehanort will teleport and do one final strike. Getting hit by the second strike will throw Sora into the air, which sets him up to be thrown back down to the ground with a third strike. Dodging the second strike will create an opening. The next attack is the glow attack we saw previously. Xehanort will send 1 globe followed by 2, and then teleport 4 times, sending 1 globe each time. He'll be open after the last attack. If you're close enough to the edge of the arena, Xehanort will teleport outside before the 4th attack. After this, Xehanort will rush towards you to do an uppercut. If you get hit, he will do another strike to send you back towards the ground. Dodging this first strike will create an opening. The next attack is a mashup of some of Xehanort's previous attacks. First, Xehanort will send a globe towards you before he dashes towards you to do an uppercut. During his dash, 2 cannons will appear to shoot you. Dodging Xehanort's attack will leave him open, though the timing is very tight. After this, Xehanort will do his magic barrage attack that we saw before. Next up are the giant cannons. There will be 4 beams pretty close together with a pause before 2 more cannons appear. During the 3rd and 4th cannon attacks, Xehanort will appear in the center open to attack. Hitting him will stop the last 2 cannons from spawning. When these cannons spawn, both versions of the Kingdom Key appear and spin in the air as the Keyblade of Heart blades appear above and below it. The wings in the Keyblade also are with these parts and spread out as the pieces come closer to the middle. The cannon part appears, which looks really similar to one of the chess pieces in Scala. Thank you to CrossVamp Kings for pointing this out. I'll leave a link to his Twitter down in the description below. A ring like the ones we saw with the smaller cannon appears as the Kingdom Keys and the bigger heart blades spin around the cannon. Golden wings appear around the outside of the cannon as well. The Kingdom Keys glow with yellow and blue light, and the heart blades close in around the hull of the cannon before a giant red beam shoots out. Also, during the charge up, these rods shoot out from behind the cannon. As the beam dissipates, we can see that 3 beams actually created this. Everything disappears except for the Kingdom Keys, which spin and then fall back into the Keyblade that appears. After this attack, Xehanort appears to do his uppercut attack before doing his light attack. His entire phase will loop on the same pattern until you deal enough damage to move on to a second phase. After damaging Xehanort enough, he will use his ultimate attack. The goat symbol from his chest piece appears on the ground before the screen whites out. The arena changes to a transparent magic circle with the 13 organization chairs surrounding you. 2 cannons appear to shoot you before a wave of 4 shadow clones fly towards you to attack with no-name Keyblades. 2 more cannons appear to shoot at you as the real Xehanort appears. You can also actually see Xehanort appear before the wave of clones fly towards you as well. 4 more clones fly at you after the cannons before Xehanort appears and form changes the Keyblade into chakrams. The blades are from the Keyblade of Heart, and the middle is the ring and rods we've seen previously. Xehanort strikes at you once before he form changes again into a double-bladed staff. This has the Keyblade's blade and wings, with the handguards being the heart blades. You cannot block the strike, and getting hit takes away from your total HP. 2 more cannons appear after this while Xehanort watches, and 4 more clones come to attack. At the end of the attack, Xehanort teleports and strikes at you with his double-bladed staff, before form changing into his chakrams to strike at you. Xehanort then teleports away and 4 more clones fly at you again. As these strike you, a giant cannon appears. Xehanort appears again to send another 4 clones at you before teleporting and sending 2 globes towards you. Xehanort then spots 2 cannons and a giant one before 4 clones attack you. 6 clones then fly at you as 2 cannons shoot at you. After this, Xehanort will again strike at you with his double-bladed staff to end the DM. The second phase has most of the attacks from the first phase, with 3 new attacks in it. First is the giant cannon beams, followed by a new attack. Xehanort opens with a globe and a giant cannon before he form changes the Keyblade into the staff we saw earlier. Then 2 giant cannons appear as Xehanort throws another globe at you before slicing at you with the staff form change. There's an opening if you dodge the first staff attack. The next attack in this phase is the globe attack. After this, Xehanort will do the beam attack we saw previously, followed by another new attack. Xehanort form changes the Keyblade into a whip with the rods we've seen previously. The handle looks to be based off a chess piece with golden wings on the bottom and heart blades at the top. Xehanort will then use the chakrams to attack before using the staff. He will then teleport and use the staff again. Finally, he will do 2 strikes with his chakrams before ending with the staff. He is open if you dodge the last attack. The projectile attack and magic barrage from the very beginning of the fight are used next before the last unique attack is used. Xehanort will do 2 chakram attacks before he pulls out his whip. He'll then teleport and use his chakrams to strike once before he uses the staff. He then ends the attack with his whip form change. There is an opening after the staff attack here. Xehanort will then use his globe attack again before restarting the phase. Occasionally, he will use his ultimate attack before he repeats this phase. I swear that some of the attacks change during this phase, or some only trigger sometimes, but I was going through the footage and couldn't find any differences, but I know I saw it at some point. My brain has just turned to mush writing the script and looking through all the footage, so I apologize if I got this phase a little bit wonky, so sorry. And I think that is all I have for you guys today. This was much more intense than I thought it was going to be, but there was so much here. I'm really surprised that a lot of the imagery of the Keyblade had ties to Scala. Also, I love the fact that Xehanort actually used form changes with the Keyblade. I think that was really missing in the final fight because that was such a huge mechanic for Sora, and it kind of felt weird to not see form changes with the No Name or the Keyblade in the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, if you look at the fight against No Heart in Birth by Sleep, you see a ton of form changes, so it was just really surprising to not see that added in the base game. Anyways, the cards on the screen show some places where I'm sometimes active, so follow the links down in the description below to stay connected. If you enjoyed this video, click the card on screen to see some other data battle breakdowns. Subscribe or share this and I'll see you in the next video. Also, I've been doing a ton of streaming over on Twitch, so be sure to follow me there. And I also just opened up a Patreon, and some of you guys have already pledged some money, and I appreciate that so much. But if you want to consider supporting me, be sure to check that out.